Part 49. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 499. As the elite of the Sakaz civilization, the Guardian Knight Ike constantly moves the muzzle of the storm gun in his hand according to the scan lock function on the visor display mirror, and shoots down the fighter jets that fly by at low altitude with short three-point shots. The maximum killing range of a storm gun with a caliber of more than 20 mm exceeds several kilometers. For fighters that only hover at an altitude of 1,000 meters, it is not much better than a specialized anti-aircraft gun. In addition, as the controller is someone like the Guardian Knight Elite, with extremely high shooting efficiency. However, the Guardian Knight soon discovered that they had underestimated these intelligent aircraft. On the battlefield where Ike was, a man nearly 3 meters tall suddenly rushed down from the group of fighter jets in the air. He had retractable mechanical flying wings behind his back and a humanoid skeleton of gray-white metal. Armored omnic weapons. Ike's visor display immediately identified the identification name of this unfamiliar Omni-Machine weapon that suddenly appeared, the Flying Wing Omni-Machine. The flying-winged Omnic who suddenly landed on the ground moved his head slightly, and a small V-shaped gap in the middle of his face lit up with red light. He then raised the muzzle of his left arm, and a dazzling blue particle beam shot out. After easily penetrating a four-legged chariot that was tilting its firepower in the air, the explosion caused by landing swallowed up the Sci-fi soldiers in a radius of more than 10 meters. Seeing this, Ike no longer cared about the group of fighters above his head. He turned the muzzle of Storm's gun and fired at the flying wing intelligent machine that was standing there and continuously emitting particle beams towards the surroundings. Nock, who was on the side, had already hung the storm gun behind his back, pulled out the high-frequency broad-blade sword built into the large shield, activated it, and rushed towards the direction of the flying-winged intelligent weapon, cooperating with Ike at a distance and at a close distance. After the flying-winged Omnics easily destroyed a four-legged chariot, the surrounding Sci-fi dispersed and hid behind the surrounding bunkers, attacking with electromagnetic rifles in their hands. The flying-wing Omnic did not dodge. The originally folded flying wings behind it suddenly opened, and then a faint blue shimmer appeared around it. The flight trajectories of all the bullets fired towards it shifted to a certain extent. Most of them they all passed by him. The flying-winged Omnic continued to stand on the spot and output like a stance, constantly firing at the gathered Sci-fi soldiers one by one with its muzzle-shaped left arm. After Ike fired a few shots, he cursed secretly in his heart and adjusted the output power of the storm gun. The originally contracted guide rails extended forward, and traces of blue arcs flashed between the guide rails. The next moment, a long stream of blue light was seen shooting out from the guide rail at the front of the storm's muzzle, easily breaking through the light blue aperture around the flying wing intelligent weapon, sending it flying and smashing into the wall of a high-rise building. Holding up the cooling storm gun with one hand, Ike ran towards the side of the tall building where the flying-winged Omnic had smashed into, and set up the storm gun again. The Sci-fi that had been scattered around them also formed a new formation and continued to rely on their weapons to shoot at the groups of fighter jets flying in the air. It is a pity that the indiscriminate firing of the flying wing intelligent weapons just now destroyed many of the air defense firepower points set up by the Sci-fi, causing the fighter planes to find the weak points of the air defense firepower of the Sci-fi below. The next moment, swarms of fighter planes swooped down, and countless particle shells plowed up the Sci-fi position below. On the other side, just as Ike set up his storm gun, the flying wing Omnic that had been blasted into the building rushed out, and its target was Ike who had just attacked him. But when the flying winged Omnic was less than 50 meters away from Ike, it was hit by a shield knight who suddenly rushed out from the side, deflecting its original flight path, collapsing a load-bearing column and falling to the ground. The V-shaped eyes were constantly scanning Nock and the surroundings, as if they were analyzing something. However, as a Guardian Knight, Nock would not hesitate. He rushed over with his shield in front and his sword behind him. With the power of the armor, his running speed exceeded that of an ordinary tank. The flying wing Omnic raised the hand cannon, but suddenly a bullet with a long blue tail shot through the air and hit his left arm, causing the muzzle to deflect. The particle beam fired out hit Nyo. A huge gap opened in a building behind K. Before the flying winged Omnic could do anything else, Nock had already taken advantage of the opportunity to cross the distance between the two, and hit the flying winged Omnic with a shield strike. How could it be used as a combat weapon for intelligent AI to fight against angels? How could it only be to this extent? The right hand of the flying wing Omnic that had been free split open, and a telescopic blade about half a meter long ejected. The next moment, the blade turned from silver gray to red, and the terrifying heat dissipated caused the air around the telescopic blade to twist and roll. Nock, who was holding the shield, saw a little red light emerging from the inside of his shield. The next moment, with this red dot as the center, a red blade tip passed through the shield, and then melted and cut across the metal structure along the way. Nock he only had time to turn his body and felt a light touch on his left arm. The right-hand thermal blade of the flying wing Omnic moved, flying Nock's severed left forearm and shield, and then raised the muzzle of his left arm to aim at Nock, who was close to Chi-Chi. Aik, who was covering in the distance, saw this and his eyes widened slightly. He immediately pulled the trigger of the storm gun in sniper mode. As the arc flashed between the upper and lower rails at the front of the gun, a special alloy bullet with several times the speed of sound flew and out. But this life-saving bullet hit the unfolded flying wings of the flying wing Omnic, leaving a deep scratch before changing direction and shooting diagonally into the sky. As early as after firing the shot, Ike dropped the storm gun and shield in his hand, drew out his broad-blade sword and ran towards the flying winged Omnic not far away. After the life-saving shot failed, Nock was also hit by the particles emitted by the flying winged Omnic. The beam of light passed through his chest and he fell backwards to the ground. Seeing the enemy fall, the flying winged Omnic turned its attention to Ike, who was running wildly. He raised his left arm to fire a particle beam, but Ike, who had predicted its aiming position in advance, dodged it. Nock, who fell to the ground, only felt severe pain in his chest, and could not exert any strength in his body. The strong physical fitness created through the promotion trial prevented Nock from immediately losing consciousness and resistance due to serious injuries. Hearing the sound of gun explosions in his ears, Nock turned his head with great effort, and saw the flying winged Omnic near him. After feeling his body condition, Nock gritted his teeth after finding that he couldn't make any combat moves. He used brain waves to control his armor and activated the melt bomb he carried on his body. After the flying wing Omnic saw that Ike had dodged several rounds of its own shots, the self-discipline core that controlled the action immediately acted according to the behavioral pattern programmed in advance, and the flying wings unfolded behind it to prepare to fly into the air. At this moment, a slight click sound came. The flying wing intelligent machine lowered its head and saw a black metal plate the size of an ordinary human head attached to his waist. Nock, who was facing the side in a throwing posture on the ground, immediately rolled away from the flying wing Omnic. The next moment, a flow of high-temperature particles splashed out around the metal disc centered on the waist of the flying wing Omni machine. The ultra-high temperature burst out in an instant, directly melted the waist armor of the flying wing Omni machine, followed by the internal structure. The Melta bomb is a special equipment specially equipped by the Guardian Knights to break through solid obstacles and battleship armor. Although the effective killing range is not large, it is powerful enough. A few seconds later, only the upper half of the body was left, with the armor and flying wings severely melted. The flying wing Omnic crawled out of the smoke generated by the melted metal. But then a big foot fell down, heavily trampling the crawling flying winged Omnic to the ground, and then a silver broad-blade sword with a weak arc of electricity flashing from time to time on the surface of the sword fell from above and penetrated the flying winged Omnic's head. Nailed to the ground. After Ike executed the flying winged Omnic that caused heavy casualties to the nearby ski terrii, he quickly ran to Nock, who was seriously injured, and found that the other man had fallen into a coma, and the armor on his body had automatically turned on the life support system. Just when Ike breathed a sigh of relief and was about to take the unconscious Nock to a sheltered area, several particle beams fell from the sky. A violent explosion sounded, and the Ski-Terriai's position, which had finally restored some order, suffered another devastating blow. Several large pits replaced the bunkers and fire power points set up by the Ski-Terriai. As the Guardian Knights, Ike and Nock were lucky not to be in the center of the explosion, but they were also carried away by the shockwave several meters away. Ike, who was lying on the ground, breathed heavily and slowly raised his head. What came into view was the charred earth with wisps of white smoke coming out. His eyes moved upward, and several figures that made Ike's pupils shrink came into view. In his eyes, a team of flying winged omnics fell from the sky, using their own scanning systems to collect and analyze the surrounding data. They were originally combat weapons that followed the fleet of aircraft in the sky and prepared to cross the defense line of the Sakaz civilization on the ground to fight the Angels. But suddenly, because a similar aircraft lost contact in this area, they received instructions from the intelligent AI Wuhang to come and investigate. The situation depends on whether he was ambushed by an angel. As a result, when he arrived at the scene, he discovered that his own aircraft of the same type had been destroyed by an affiliated civilization under the Angel banner. Since they had been separated from the original combat plan, these flying wing intelligent machines immediately created new missions and launched a clearing operation together, intending to eliminate these flying wing intelligent machines. All resistance forces in a region continue to implement the original plan. In just a few minutes, the Ski-Terriai in Ike's area suffered heavy losses. The particle beam cannon on the left arm of the flying wing Omnic was so powerful that there were almost no bunkers for the Ski-Terriai to hide. The Ski-Terriai's counterattack also poses no threat to the flying wing intelligent machine whose surface is made of a special alloy. At most, it will cause some potholes on the surface and cannot cause any damage to the internal structure. Just when Ike and the remaining Ski-Terriai, who were still resisting, thought they were going to die on this alien land, 5 figures suddenly flew down from the sky, killing 5 flying winged omnics suspended in the air. As the impact spread, 3 more units fell to the ground. The person who caused the scene was the elite angel team that had quickly come to support after receiving the Ski-Terriai's request for help. One of the female angels nodded slightly in the direction of Ike on the ground, raised the flaming sword in her hand and pointed it at the flying winged intelligent weapon opposite, then turned into a white afterimage and rushed towards the opponent. In an instant, the flying winged omnics in the air fought with the angel warriors, and the aftermath of the battle destroyed many omnic annihilators. The central battlefield, over the location of the temporary Stargate. Holding a flaming sword that glowed with red gold, Zilugo sprinted and split a flying winged omnic in half diagonally. He then turned around and raised his legs to sweep away an approaching flying winged omnic, then fanned his wings to accelerate and catch up with him. Chest core pierced. In the blink of an eye, 2 of the flying wing omnics, considered a high-level unit in the omnic combat sequence, were destroyed. Even though 11 Lugo was so relaxed, these flying winged omnics were not weak at all. They were designed by the god of the world eaters over a long period of time and were specially produced to fight the angels as elite cannon fodder. It has a solid metal frame, surface armor with excellent impact resistance, high temperature resistance, and electromagnetic resistance, plus various built-in black technology devices, which can even compete with the second-generation angel warriors. However, the god of the world eaters' luck is not good. Nowadays, after a long period of development, the Angel Legion has become more influential. Thousands of years ago, with the development of sufficient resources, most of the active battle angels are already second-generation warriors. As Zilugo destroyed more and more flying winged omnics on the battlefield, the intelligent AI Wuhang also mobilized more flying winged omnics to surround and kill Zilugo. For a moment, Zilugo was a little overwhelmed. He slashed horizontally and vertically with the flaming sword in his hand. Flying wing intelligent machines that were broken into two pieces kept falling from the sky. However, the flying winged intelligent machines that gathered around him even formed a human wall, cutting the middle ones into pieces. Zilugo surrounded it, compressing its space for movement. Seeing this, Angel Lugo, who was the battlefield commander, anxiously ordered the surrounding angel warriors to go to the rescue. Now it has been confirmed that a high-level angel has died. If 11 Lugo also died here, Angel Lugo can already predict what Sister Ran will look like when she is angry. Zilugo, who was surrounded by people at the moment, after cutting open the 20th flying winged intelligent machine, did not check for a moment, and the flaming sword in his hand was forcibly taken away by the surrounding flying winged intelligent equipment. The intelligent AI Wu Heng, who was controlling the flying winged omnics behind the scenes, thought that he could kill the high-level angel after disarming his weapon, but the actual development completely deviated from its calculation results. Zilugo, who had lost the flaming sword, looked as usual. He did not lose any sense of proportion because the weapon was taken away. His hands were clenched tightly, and a line of sacred language lit up on the standard arm guard that was different from ordinary angels. The next moment, there was a faint red-gold energy. Wrapping his fists in it, Angel Zilugo's fist suddenly blasted out. There was just a bang, and a faint red shockwave exploded. The chest armor of the hit flying wing omnic collapsed, knocking out several aircraft of the same type along the way. The V-shaped scanning window on its face flashed a few times. Suddenly it went out and the whole body fell towards the ground. Almost every one of the high-ranking angels who can survive the cruel physical war and use their fighting achievements to advance to the third generation has their own specialties. The fallen angel Yinga has a powerful guerrilla warfare capability. Its 5-gun guerrilla warfare method is both offensive and defensive, and can withstand the siege of several soldiers of the same level at the same time. Zilugo could hardly meet an opponent in the internal competition of Merlot Heaven. He relied not on ordinary swordsmanship and good energy transfer technology, but on the special energy shock technology borrowed from the fist of Kamigawa that can destroy supergenes and material stability. The product is combined with the energy field technology recently released by the Holy Left Wing. The force field solidifies the invisible dark energy on the surface of the fists, allowing Zilugo's hands to withstand high-intensity energy attacks for a short time. At the same time, the fists that only have physical kinetic energy to kill have the high temperature of dark energy to erode and kill, plus able to destroy supergenes and the ability to stabilize material structures. Zilugo's fists are more deadly than the sword in her hand. A violent explosion suddenly occurred among the flying winged omnics surrounding Zilugo. It turned out that after the melee battle failed, the flying winged omnics ignored their surrounding companions and directly used high-power particle beams. But as the fire cloud generated by the explosion was hit by the flying winged omnic debris, a gap was created, and Zilugo rushed out of it. This meant that the intelligent AI Wu Heng's operation to kill the high-level angels had failed. Angel Lugo saw that Zilugo managed to fight his way out of the enemy's siege with a pair of iron fists. He breathed a sigh of relief and was secretly speechless at the same time. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 500. Continuous explosions and fireballs were like fireworks exploding during a festival, filling the sky and the ground in the city. The spreading shockwave collapsed the building and carried the debris flying everywhere. The billowing black smoke that had just risen was divided into several groups by the fighter jets and angels passing by at high speed and dissipated in the air. The battle in the air has become intense. Because there are so many omnics, Angel has no choice but to give up its air supremacy in areas outside the temporary Stargate and use its limited air power to protect the safety of the area where the temporary Stargate is located. As the remaining Wuhan people in the city gradually gathered near the temporary Stargate, the Sakaz civilization's Skitarii and Skitarianites troops were shrinking their defense line towards the location of the Stargate. Shortly after the Sakaz civilization tightened its defense line, the Omnic ground troops landed on the island where the fortress city was located. Their main components were bionic machines and four-legged destroyers. The four-legged chariots brought by the Sci-fi could only be crushed against the armored units of Omnics, but the Sci-fi made up for the heavy firepower of Sarkaz's land battle. The slow-moving four-legged chariot is simply unable to fight against the bionic machinery whose movement and flexibility exceed conventional standards. Coupled with the bombardment of the destroyer's heavy particle cannon, the Sci-fi can only trade space for time and try to avoid major disasters caused by positional warfare. Casualties. The Sci-fi are a team of 6, dispersed to hunt the bionic machines that pursue the Sci-fi, and at the same time destroy the destroyers, the Omnic fire support unit that follows the bionic machines. Because the Sci-fi were equipped with live munition electromagnetic weapons, the destroyer's powerful shield did not play its original role, causing the Omnic's ground attack force to advance extremely slowly. Putting his palm up to form a knife, Zilugo's delicate-looking hand collided with the thermal energy blade swung by the flying winged intelligent machine, causing a spreading energy shock. Immediately afterwards, Zilugo punched the face of the flying winged Omnic opposite him. Under the energy shock at the microscopic level, the armored molecular structure of the flying winged Omnic's face was destroyed, and it caved in and shattered like porcelain, revealing the damage. The internal structure has been deformed and twisted due to the huge kinetic energy impact. Normal angel warriors need to activate the dark energy cutting mode of the flame sword to cut through the outer armor of the flying wing Omnic, but it was easily destroyed by 11 Lugo's punch. After dealing with the flying winged Omnic on the opposite side, Zilugo decided to avoid the sneak attack of another flying winged Omnic, then instigated his wings to catch up, and demolished it to pieces in a few moves. Looking around in the air, he found that the number of Omnic fighter planes and flying wing Omnics showed no sign of decreasing. Zilugo moved slightly away from the fiercest battle zone and began to contact Angel Lugo, who was in charge of the command. The other side was constantly issuing dispatch orders one after another, allowing the angel warriors in the war zone to cover each other. Angel Lugo, who was giving orders for mutual support, quickly connected after receiving 11 Lugo's call request. "If you need anything, just tell me quickly. I'm very busy right now." Before 11 Lugo could reply, Angel Lugo, whose eyes glowed with a faint white light, issued several dispatching instructions one after another. "How is the evacuation going? I feel like the number of these Omnic weapons seems to be increasing." Zilugo on the other end asked the question he wanted to ask without any nonsense. At the same time, he punched away the blocking arm of the approaching flying winged Omnic, raised his right leg and kicked it upside down, and accelerated and bullied it. He punched his chest armor and dented it. Angel Lugo took the time to look at the temporary Stargate below. A large number of Wuhang civilians were entering the Stargate under the urging of the Sakaz civilization's Sci-fi, but there were still many Wuhang people still stranded around the Stargate. About a third of them are still evacuated. Zilugo gritted his teeth gently and uttered a sentence, "Continue to hold on. When all the Wuhang people evacuate, we will retreat into the Stargate." An hour later, the Wuhang people who gathered around the Stargate had all withdrawn into the Stargate, and the ground troops of the Sakaz civilization were also forced into the vicinity of the Stargate by Omnics. There is no safe place in the sky at this moment. Angels, flying winged Omnics, and fighters are entangled together, making it difficult to distinguish one from the other. Even Angel Lugo, as the commander, joined the battle, because at this point, it no longer mattered whether she had a dispatch order or not. Zilugo looked at the chaotic battlefield and was a little at a loss as to what to do. The angels could still forcefully evacuate the battlefield, but the same could not be said for the numerous Sakaz warriors below. Suddenly, more than a dozen barrel-thick thunder and lightning shot toward the sky from the Stargate, and a dozen flying winged Omnics that were entangled with the angel warriors were struck by the lightning. After the lightning gradually disappeared in the air, the dozens of flying wing intelligent machines that were washed away by the lightning had melted into pieces, and the wreckage quickly fell from the sky. Seeing this scene, Zilugo exclaimed, "Sister Ran. The angel, who was wearing a guardian angel with some golden decorative patterns in the details, flapped his wings on his back, his body gradually floated into the air, and at the same time connected to the angel's public channel. All angel warriors, cover the retreat of the soldiers of the Sakaz civilization. As for the sky, leave it to me. Angel Ran raised his hand after speaking, and as the space distorted, a silver broad-bladed heavy sword with streaks of lightning on its surface came out of the wormhole and was held by Ran. Its shape was quite similar to the flaming sword. However, the 3 lines of sacred language neatly arranged on the spine of the sword represent that this weapon is an exclusive and special weapon that is different from standard weapons. The originally dark night sky suddenly erupted with lightning and thunder, and the rumbling thunder resounded throughout the battlefield. The next moment, the blazing white light illuminated the fortress city as bright as day, followed by thunder and lightning that almost blocked the entire sky. With Angel Ran as the center, thick spider-web-like thunder crisscrossed and flashed. Countless flying-wing intelligent machines, fighters, and air battleships flying through the air exploded with fire, and metal debris scattered in all directions, like a falling cloud. Heavy snowfall. After seeing this spectacular scene in the sky, the Sakaz warriors on the ground, led by some members of the Angel of Salvation sect, shouted the name of the god of thunder and war, and their morale increased. War gods, this special existence is comparable to super weapons in some civilizations. Their destructive power is many times better than that of 3 generations of warriors. They are existences that can destroy ordinary aerospace-level civilizations by themselves. When Ran left the command center and arrived at the battlefield, the ambush plan deployed by the intelligent AI had failed. However, as a supercomputer that can control the entire planet, it had also calculated the possibility of such a situation and prepared a plan. The response plan was to stop losses in time and at the same time launch a new round of attacks thousands of miles away. After burning used lightning to clear a large area of Omnic units, the attack power of the Omnics began to decrease. In the end, under the cover of Ran's attack, Sakaz and the Angel Warriors successfully completed the evacuation. This rescue operation was considered a successful conclusion, but the Sakaz warriors and angels who sacrificed their lives to save the Wuhang people cannot be ignored. Ran's departure from the command center was not without cost. Shortly after Ran left, a team of flying winged Omnics crossed the fire network in front and raided the command center. Fortunately, there were several high-level angels stationed in the command center, and only a few civil servants from various civilizations and one scientific research angel who had no time to escape were killed. A few days passed after rescuing the survivors of the Wuhang civilization, and Ran finally completed the gathering of the coalition forces. Then the sky blade opened the way and evaporated the black atmosphere surrounding the entire Wuhang star. Without the obstruction of the dark atmosphere, the angels' battery life finally returned to normal. Led by high-level angels, with the assistance of civilizations such as Sakaz, Kebrai, and Migra, they attacked and destroyed the army along the way. The Omnic production factories, whether hidden or located in metal fortresses on the surface, have suffered devastating damage, and the war potential of Omnics has begun to plummet. In the end, during a 2-month mopping up operation, the coalition forces locked the location of the intelligent AI that controlled the entire Black Star. Ran led a team of high-ranking angels to kill a large number of flying-winged intelligent machines in charge of guarding, and successfully broke into the underground digital network. Qinmi captures intelligent AI. After losing the control of the intelligent AI Wuhang, the entire Wuxing star fell into a state of paralysis, and all the remaining Omnics became stiff and dull like walking zombies. In Merlot Heaven, Binghua took a sip of tea and flipped through the latest battle report uploaded by Ran. Regarding the battle against Wu Xingxing, Binghua was generally quite satisfied with Ran's performance. Binghua has been sitting in the position of the holy left wing for a long time, and feels quite boring, and Ran is the most suitable successor in Binghua's mind, so he spares no effort to cultivate Ran's ability. Even part of the authority over the weapons arsenal was given to Ran. You must know that the arsenal contains the results of Binghua's research for nearly 10,000 years. Although most of them are defective things, there are also many good things. Especially in the past 100 years, after reaching cooperation with the Super Seminary, although Angel failed to obtain the expected core data of the divine body of the Kamigawa civilization, he unexpectedly gained a lot of basic or partial scientific and technological information. After Binghua discovered that his ability to research divine bodies was not as good as He-11's, he turned to studying these technical materials from the ancient Kamigawa civilization. I especially like the part about compressing and constraining energy, because Binghua has a vision, that is, one day, stars can be compressed into the size of marbles, or loaded into weapons. In that case, I am afraid that the entire known universe will surrender to this powerful force. Down. Binghua shook her head to get these thoughts out of her mind, and called Jingnan out of habit before she realized that he seemed to have given her a day off a few days ago. After thinking about it, Binghua still didn't bother Jingnan, who was dating Texas. After sighing that Jingnan paid less and less attention to her as the queen, Binghua left the office and flew away. A super seminary not far from Merlot Heaven. After saying hello to the super theological seminary tutor whom he met in passing, Binghua walked into a relatively remote private research room in the super theological seminary. "Little guy, I haven't seen you for a while, you seem to have grown taller again." After Binghua entered the private research room, he stopped at a corner. In front of him was a small group of artificial wooden frames, with a childlike figure moving flexibly on it. "Hello, Miss Binghua." A male student who was scanning something said hello to Binghua in a somewhat reserved manner. "What are you doing, checking this little guy's body?" "No, Miss Binghua, the teacher asked me to collect more data on Gaku for research." No matter how many times he heard it, Binghua was still deeply impressed by the name Wukong, especially when the person who was given this name was an animal that looked very similar to a monkey in his previous life. Staring at Wukong, who was standing on the wooden frame, grinning at him and showing off his power, Binghua smiled and said, "Whenever you become the Monkey King, you may be more intimidating by doing this." After saying this, Binghua turned around and left. She didn't like Wukong, an animal that looked very similar to a monkey. She just found it interesting and she saw it every time she came here, so she teased Wukong. Walking into the research room not far away, a middle-aged man was standing in front of the console playing with projection data. He saw Binghua walking in from the corner of his eye and quickly said hello. Binghua nodded, then looked at the content on the projection in front of the middle-aged man and asked aloud, "Teacher Wu, judging from your situation, there seems to be little progress in the research on material compression." The middle-aged man, whom Binghua called Mentor Wu, sighed, turned off the projection in front of him, and invited Binghua to sit down on the sofa in the rest area, and then explained. Although there are already experimental records related to material compression and mass energy conversion in the records of the Kamigawa civilization, those are only the most basic demonstration experiments on this subject. During my painstaking research over the years, I have discovered that ordinary compression technology has limited compression capabilities and cannot achieve the expected results. It is also impossible for us to put excess matter into the expansion space, so how to connect it with the real thing is a difficult problem. Binghua waited until Instructor Wu finished explaining his point of view before putting forward his own opinion. If no breakthrough can be made in matter compression for the time being, can we think of a way from mass energy conversion? I have read information in this regard. Converting matter into energy for storage, and materializing energy when needed, will undoubtedly solve the problem of insufficient space. Instructor Wu nodded. Binghua's idea is indeed feasible. Although Instructor Wu often conducts some small research, he is also one of the instructors responsible for weapons research in the Anti-Void project. Recently, the entire research team has been worrying about the third generation of Kamigawa War God. Weapons issue. The cutting-edge weapons of the past are gradually unable to meet the requirements. With the development of divine body technology, the energy that the war god can control is getting larger and larger. Coupled with the rise of celestial computer technology, a new round of weapons technology revolution is imperative. If mass energy conversion technology can be added to the latest cutting-edge weapons, it will undoubtedly greatly enhance the destructive power of the god of war. After exchanging mutual research results with teacher Wu, Binghua left. As the holy left wing, she had to deal with a lot of things. If she didn't have powerful computing power and could deal with things while living her daily life, I'm afraid Binghua would have long asked Kesha to retire. Instructor Wu put down his research work after Binghua left. When he walked outside the laboratory, a dark figure immediately jumped on his shoulders and rubbed the side of his face. Okay, Wukong, stop making trouble, haven't I been too busy recently? Come on, let's go out for a walk together. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 501. He 11 put down the porcelain cup in his hand and reached out to push his hanging silver hair back. His blue eyes reflected the green garden in front of him. According to the battle report sent back to Marrow Heavenly Court, Ran has annihilated the enemies on the Black Star and captured the intelligent AI there. How? Binghua, are you interested in that AI? Binghua glanced at Hexie's profile and then replied with a smile. Sister Hexie, you are looking down on me too much. Even if I need technology in this area, I will not be reduced to the level of researching intelligent AI. He 11 looked sideways at Binghua with interest. Oh? Then how do you plan to solve it? It's very simple. I'll be looking for you, the Chief Scientific Officer of Angel Civilization, soon. He 11 smiled and shook his head when he heard this. When other angels say what you said, I must think they are really complimenting me, but when it comes from your mouth, why do I feel so happy? After finishing their small talk, He 11 and Binghua got down to business. I heard from Kesha that this Black Star incident seems to be related to the last World Eater god. I have read the information you uploaded in the database, calling yourself a god, invading civilizations you encounter at will, devouring all available resources and technology to evolve yourself. It's really a terrible civilization. You didn't completely destroy it last time. This is not in line with my understanding of you, Binghua. Binghua didn't explain anything about this. The reappearance of the god of world eaters was indeed beyond Binghua's expectation, but Binghua didn't have the will to lead the team to rush over again to crush him to ashes, because the god of world eaters was still there. Not worth her full attention. As the holy left-wing Hyuka, she cannot act at will, and as a weapons research fanatic, she has obtained a lot of technical information from the ancient Kamigawa civilization in the past 100 years. Recently, she has been doing weapons research in her own research institute while building her own celestial computer. And produced a lot of trial weapons. It wasn't until Ran captured Wu Heng, Wu Xingxing's intelligent AI, that Binghua turned his attention to this matter and issued an order for Ran to bring the intelligent AI back to Marrow Heaven. Binghua's plan is very simple. After bringing this intelligent AI back, he plans to conduct data analysis on it through several skyblades, dismantle it, obtain all its data, and find traces of the World Eater god. Ran's report has clearly pointed out that in this Wuheng battle, no trace of the World Eater god was found, and even the clone of the World Eater god encountered in the battle data uploaded by Angel Yinga was not found. Discover. Compared with the enemy on the surface, this kind of enemy who hides behind the scenes and may backstab him at any time is undoubtedly very annoying. Therefore, the main thing that Binghua plans to do next is to deal with the god of world eaters, who destroys justice, the existence of order and stability. As the king of angels, Kesha has delegated authority after learning about this matter, leaving all decisions to Binghua. As for Kesha, the king of angels, her eyes are set on the sea of stars that is outside the order of justice and is far away from the angel nebula. Because the recent war between the eternal ascended ones and the chaos virus has suddenly escalated, it has affected the observation point set up by the angels there. The huge chaotic mutant biological battleships that can flood the galaxy and the mechanized fleet of eternal ascendants that cover the entire starry sky are all existences that can threaten the order of justice. Fortunately, the two sides have now become pig-brained, and have no time to pay attention to other things. They have fixed the battlefield on that sea of stars. However, the countless intelligent beings located in that sea of stars have been affected by the two fighting. Their lives have been devastated, and their homes have been destroyed. But just in case, Kesha still mobilized more than 30 Skyblade combat units to guard the Angel Nebula border. Such a large-scale mobilization of military power was not known to other angels except Binghua, who is the Angel's military commander. The main reason is that he 11, as the holy right-winger, is not very interested in this, and Liang Bing, as an auxiliary officer, rarely participated in Tianquan's decision-making hundreds of years ago. He has long been in name only, and now he only has the title of an auxiliary officer. Just a name. It was my negligence last time and I didn't confirm that it was completely destroyed, but this time it will never escape like last time. Binghua's voice was very firm. Binghua didn't like this kind of existence that destroyed stability for no reason. Although Binghua had some reservations about Kesha's concept of justice, most of it was undoubtedly in line with her behavior. Standard. That's good. Don't forget to bring its remains back when the time comes. Maybe you can analyze something useful. I am very interested in its technology that can change the material at will and disperse and reorganize the structure at will. Maybe it can provide some technical reference for my next generation divine body research project. Binghua stood up and patted the hem of her skirt, looked at Hexie who was still sitting on the lawn and promised. Don't worry, you are not the only one. I am also very interested in some of the abilities of the World Eater God. If possible, I will try to capture him alive. When Binghua returned to his palace, he unexpectedly found a familiar figure sitting on a chair in the rest area of his office. Queen Kesha. Binghua called out the name of the figure with a hint of surprise, then walked into the office quickly, and then a translucent light curtain sealed the door of the office. Kesha stood up from her seat, turned around, looked at Binghua and said loudly, "I'm sorry for Binghua, I suddenly barged into your office." Binghua just glanced at the translucent light curtain that blocked the room and understood its essence. It can block the micro-wormhole technology and prevent data outflow. At the same time, it disrupts the dark information during this period, which can effectively prevent the subsequent reading of dark information. Ability to obtain information during lockdown. Sister Kesha, please sit down first. You probably have something you want to tell me. Kesha nodded and sat down again, and Binghua also sat opposite her. I will act like this because what I am going to say next is about Liang Bing. Hearing this, Binghua frowned slightly, but looking at Kesha, it seemed that Liang Bing had done something bad, otherwise Kesha wouldn't have come to tell her this in private. Binghua combined some of the information he had obtained and roughly had a result in his mind, but on the surface he still looked attentive. Liang Bing has left behind the things in Tiancheng and been playing with her time and space genes for hundreds of years. I understand her love for this journey. Originally, I didn't want to care about her, but in the past 100 years, her research has become increasingly deviated from the original intention, and she even got together with Carl from the Super Seminary. Carl? I've heard of him, one of the students in space, and he seems to be very popular with him. Binghua thought for a moment before speaking out. Kesha nodded after hearing the words. I have investigated Carl, but I have not gained much. The subject he is responsible for is a confidential project within the Academy, and even we angels do not have permission to view it. but what is certain is that the person in charge of this project is Space, the principal of the Super Seminary. He seems to be carrying out some plan that he does not want us angels to know. It seems that in addition to the counter-void God-making plan, the principal of Space has other plans. Kesha waved her hand nonchalantly, signaling Binghua not to think too much about it. It's normal to have other plans, but it doesn't matter because our angels also got what we wanted in this cooperation. What's important now is that Liangbing and Carl got mixed up. As a student in space, Carl has the authority to use part of the big clock, and he has been helping Liangbing conduct some dangerous research for unknown purposes. Although I can understand Liangbing's love for space-time genetic engineering, it is undoubtedly dangerous to study chaos viruses without authorization, and a little carelessness can lead to disasters sweeping the entire galaxy. So Binghua, I need you to secretly destroy the place where Liangbing studies the chaos virus for me, hoping to warn her not to continue such dangerous research. Binghua nodded, warning. She already understood Kesha's thoughts. As Liangbing's sister, Kesha didn't want to destroy the sisterhood between the two. In order to prevent the situation from getting bigger, she chose to give a warning secretly. She just didn't know. Will Liangbing understand what Kesha means? Although Binghua recognized Kesha as the king of angels and called her sister Kesha, she had no good way to intervene in the relationship between sisters. After Kesha left, Binghua lay on the table in distress. Ever since the order of justice was formulated by Kesha and implemented within the angels' control, Kesha, who was once their eldest sister, became more and more domineering. Justice and order as one's own code of conduct. In the previous period of the Four Kings, the four angel queens, including Binghua, Hexi, Liangbing, and Kesha, performed their duties without interfering with each other and were all pursuing research topics of their own interest. However, with the determination of the concept of justice, some things that violate the concept of justice have been explicitly prohibited. However, for Binghua and several high-level angel civilization officials, the justice order law has limited restrictions on them. Because even Kesha, who created the just order, knew that if angels could not always be at the forefront of the times, then the so-called just order would be nothing more than eggshells that could be broken at a touch. However, one of them is recognized by the top angels, that is, it is not allowed to tamper with, play with life, or affect the research of other civilizations. After explaining some things, the Phantom, one of the 7 auxiliary swords of Wang's sword, was separated and used as the core to project a clone, sitting in the Merlot heaven. Binghua didn't waste much time after that and led 2 high-level angels to secretly leave the Merlot heavenly court. After reaching the star field near the target through the Stargate network all over the world of justice, he then used the super weapon built in the angel wings developed by He-11. The speed of light means rushing to the target location. Along the way, Binghua erased all traces of himself. Unless he used a large clock or a celestial computer of the same level to perform dark information retrospection and recovery, there was no way to find out Binghua's passage information. A few days later. Is this the research base established by Liangbing? It's really remote. It's a shame that Kesha's angels were able to find it. Binghua stared at the broken planetary system in front of him that was on the verge of disintegration, and couldn't help but murmured in the established communication channel. Queen, don't we need to get closer? Binghua raised his hand to indicate that there was no need, because the target information given by Kesha was very accurate and there was no need to get closer for investigation. You guys stand aside and I'll force the angels out of the research institute first. Binghua raised his right hand, and the surrounding void rippled. The next moment, countless silver blades more than 1 meter long spurted out from it, like a silver dark cloud billowing in the universe. Binghua gave the command in his heart to condensate. The group of silver long blades that were originally flying randomly in the universe suddenly gathered in front of Binghua, forming a huge sword that spanned several kilometers. Binghua and the 2 high-level angels accompanying him were like dust compared to them. Sister Lan, the research is progressing very smoothly. The rejection of the chaos virus has basically disappeared, and the survival rate of male angel test subjects is 30%. A female angel wearing a white research coat came to the base control room and reported to a female angel with short blonde hair wearing a high-level angel armor who had her back turned to her. "Me, you did a good job. After collecting the data, all the experimental subjects will be processed. I believe you will be happy to perform this task." "It's Sister Lan, I'm very happy." Mi Vinyan, who was below, nodded and replied aloud, and was about to turn around and leave to carry out data extraction and destruction work. After Mi left, the blonde short-haired female angel turned around, and it turned out to be King Apocalypse's first right-wing guard, the angel Shalan. This way the queen will be one step closer to her dream. Suddenly the entire base shook violently, rolling like a drum washing machine. Shalan was caught off guard and hit the ceiling. The debris in the room was also in a mess. Then there was a loud bang that resounded throughout the base. As soon as Angel Shalan stabilized his body and was about to call the base's intelligent AI, there was another loud noise, accompanied by violent vibrations, as if he had hit something. After waiting for the shaking to subside, Shalan successfully summoned the base's intelligent AI. "What happened to the vibration just now?" "Zia. The base was just hit by an unknown attack. Now it has deviated from its original trajectory. Currently, the base is damaged in many places and some functions are limited. 38% of the base has been damaged and cannot be used anymore." Shalan asked the intelligent AI Zia to call up the external image. The next moment Shalan's expression froze. An object that was several kilometers long and nearly a kilometer wide and seemed to be a giant sword pierced the center of the base, like an apple. It looked like a knife had been inserted into it. King of Heavenly Sword. As Liang Bing's first right-wing bodyguard, Shalan once served as the commander-in-chief of the Scouting Angels. He clearly knew some information that ordinary angels did not know. In the image, she naturally knew who owned the supersized giant sword with subtle energy circuit patterns on its surface and metallic silver overall. It was the Skyward Sword King's unique anti-ship weapon, the Star Blade of Destruction. Shalan felt a little nervous at the moment. She knew very well that the research conducted by her institute was shady, otherwise she would not have found such a remote corner. And the fact that the King of Heavenly Sword came to the door means that he must have made a discovery. It is estimated that it will be difficult for him to escape, but the experimental data must not be obtained by the King of Heavenly Sword like this. "Zia, tell all the angels in the base to disperse and leave here, and at the same time self-destruct the database." After giving these instructions, Shalan contacted Angel Mi who had just left alone. "Mi, you leave here immediately through the insect gate and bring the data to the Queen. Remember not to reveal your identity." After finishing these things, Shalan took out his special silver rapier, looked at the silver blade and muttered to himself. "Let me meet you for a moment, the King of Heavenly Sword who is praised highly by the Queen." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 502. After seeing that all the angels in the base had almost fled, Binghua approached. The two high-level angels on the side had been vigilantly observing their surroundings. While rushing to this research institute, Binghua also came up with a better solution than dealing with it secretly, in order to avoid unnecessary casualties. Binghua planned to create angels under his command and accidentally discovered this research institute. At the same time, before he led his team to attack the research institute, all the personnel in the research institute had been evacuated. Finally, he only had to make a thorough investigation in Huishan City. Well, perfect. As long as the angels in the institute are not caught in this operation, it will not turn into hostility between the angel factions and prevent the factions that have finally merged from creating gaps again. Falling on the huge sword of the destruction star blade that penetrated the institute, Binghua glanced at the other side of the institute, heading away from here. The streaks of light that shot away represented the angel's super light space flight, and he had no choice. Pursued. Well, everyone should have left. Let's go in and take a look. Binghua said something to the two high-level angels who were accompanying him, and took the lead in taking steps, walking on the silver sword body of the star blade of destruction as if spreading, without any rush. The sudden Binghua stopped, and the high-level angel guarding him also stopped. The next moment, 4 rays of silver light shot toward the high-level angel on the left side of Binghua. The high-level angel who was suddenly attacked reacted quickly. While dodging, the broad blade of the flaming sword in his hand also covered the vital points of his chest like a shield. A huge kinetic energy shockwave spread out, and the high-level angel guarding was carried back tens of meters by the huge kinetic energy. Fortunately, he was not injured. All this happened in an instant. Except for Binghua, who was aware of it, the other 2 guardian angels had no defense at all. Immediately, signs of space distortion representing the transfer of micro-wormholes appeared in the void. A female angel wearing a helmet with a lower visor and a high-level angel armor rushed out, pointing the silver thin sword in her hand directly at the person who had escaped from the ice flower. Guardian angels around. However, just when the mysterious angel who suddenly appeared was about to break into the maximum damage range of the weapon in her hand, dozens of silver blades reflecting the faint light flew from behind, blocking a large space around it. No matter she evaded or continuing to charge is within its coverage. Faced with such a critical situation, the raider could only turn around and switch from raiding to self-protection. The silver thin sword in his hand quickly and neatly drew several criss-crossing trajectories in front of him. After accurately knocking away several sharp blades carrying huge kinetic energy, he saw another wave coming from behind, twice as many as before. After the rain of sharp blades, he simply retreated into the open wormhole behind him. Binghua lowered his raised hand and asked the guarding angel not far away, "Are you not injured?" The guarding angel who was attacked quickly shook his head to indicate that he was fine, and then quickly returned to Binghua's side to guard the surroundings with another companion. Binghua in the middle didn't look nervous at all. He glanced around and saw that there were no angels around, so he said directly. The second generation of micro-wormhole tactics is Liang Bing's special skill. There are only a few of them in Tiancheng. Your identity is easy to guess. First of all, you are definitely not Liang Bing. If she takes action, I, the guardian angel, may not have a chance to survive. Ruaning is currently on duty, so it can't be her, nor can it be Yun Lan. After excluding the remaining 3 high-level angels with average level of second-generation micro-wormhole tactics, the only one left is the former Apocalypse. Are you protected by Wang Yuyi? Binghua didn't get a response after saying that, and his expression turned cold. Shalin's attack just now was not spared. If he hadn't blocked it in time, the guards he brought might have perished here. Although Binghua is relatively tolerant to her compatriots, she is not a holy mother who can repay evil with kindness. You must know that she was once called the god of killer by a male angel. Queen, let's leave here first and call the nearby garrison for support. Binghua raised his hand to indicate no need, and then said, since you are unwilling to take the initiative, then don't blame me for being rough. The palm of his hand was facing up and his 5 fingers were spread out. As the space was distorted, a rather strange silver sword emerged from Binghua's palm. Even after Binghua grasped the hilt of the sword, Binghua didn't see any movement. The sword suddenly deformed and spread slightly to both sides, revealing a gap in the center, in which blue energy was unstably intertwined with each other. The next second, the entangled blue energy suddenly exploded, forming a spherical energy impact that spread out to the surroundings without any dead ends. About a second later, Binghua's sight shifted to a certain place, and then suddenly stepped forward and rushed out. At the same time, the wide sword body of the star blade suddenly decomposed into a large hole several meters away, and an angel figure holding a silver thin sword was covering his helmet with one hand in pain. Seeing the Heavenly Sword King rushing towards him from the big hole above his head, Shalan quickly backed away without caring about his aching head. Binghua, however, rushed towards the retreating Shalan like an arrow. Seeing that he could not escape, Shalan repeated his old trick. The micro-wormhole transport appeared and his body retreated into the micro-wormhole. Seeing this, Binghua's mouth slightly raised, and he swung the alien sword forward lightly, and a wave of light blue energy swept forward like a tide. Then there was a faint ripple in the space, and Shalan seemed to be forcibly vomited out by the space. Her figure was very miserable, as if she had been through a big battle, with a lot of damage on her armor and stomach. Shalan clutched her chest and stared solemnly at the weapon in Binghua's hand dozens of meters away. The helmet she originally wore on her head had disappeared. A weapon that disrupts the stability of the space medium. I didn't expect you, Heavenly Sword King, to create such a thing. Is it specifically designed to target micro-wormhole tactics? The separated middle spine of the alien sword in Binghua's hand once again gathered twisted blue energy, completing the reloading, and could carry out space medium interference at any time. It's not too difficult to make, it's just a matter of shrinking the space medium disruptor and installing it into the weapon. You are wrong to say that it is specifically designed to target micro-wormhole tactics. My imaginary enemies never include my fellow angels. If I hadn't encountered you, the former Apocalypse King's right wing, today, it would probably have been gathering dust in the arsenal. Before Binghua could finish the sentence, Shalan's hand covering her chest suddenly swung forward, and several short silver blades shot out from the void. Binghua's eyes narrowed, and he slashed the incoming short blade with the giant sword in his hand several times, and then made a horizontal movement of the sword in his hand, just in time to stop Shalan's slender blade that was thrust forward. An almost transparent energy wave spread out to the surroundings. Shalan used her energy transfer technology at full power. At the maximum output, the thin sword in her hand could easily cut off the ordinary standard weapons of the angels. After a moment of stalemate, Binghua took the lead to retreat and dodge, because she couldn't hold on if she didn't dodge the alien giant sword in her hand. After all, the alien giant sword in her hand was not a weapon for head-on confrontation, and the material used was also for better containment and cooperation with the spatial media disruptor to function. Although its overall strength was good, it was still a bit inferior to the main battle weapon in the hands of a war god-level angel. In order to prevent his collection from being damaged, Binghua chose to retreat. What? Are you afraid of Heavenly Sword King? Shalan spoke out and at the same time controlled several short blades floating around and rushed towards Binghua. Forget it, I won't play with you anymore, I have serious business to do here. After Binghua finished speaking, she raised her free left hand, and the red hot lines outlined the shape of a pair of arm guards and gauntlets on her forearm. As the matter was transported by the micro-wormhole according to the arrangement calculated in advance, a pair of fully covered metal arm guards and gauntlets wrapped Binghua's left hand and forearm in them. He raised his hand to grab the void in the direction of Shalan, but Binghua missed it. Shalan escaped into the wormhole calculated in advance just now. But Binghua's reaction was also very sharp. Almost at the moment Shalan disappeared, the alien sword in his right hand violently spread a spherical energy impact to the surroundings. The next moment, Shalan's figure appeared less than 10 meters away from the ice flower, accompanied by 4 silver short blades that attacked separately. But the next moment, everything was imprisoned in place as if time had stopped. Shalan's eyes widened suddenly as she felt the huge resistance all over her body. She didn't know when the almost transparent silver energy field had spread all over the surrounding universe. With Binghua's grasping action, these originally almost transparent silver energy fields, the force field energy, began to solidify with an intensity visible to the naked eye. Shalan, who was imprisoned, also felt an extremely huge force oppressing his body, as if he could twist his body, which was much stronger than Taya alloy, into a twist at any time. The 4 silver short blades that originally attacked Binghua to assist the second-generation micro-wormhole tactics had been twisted and deformed before that. Binghua looked at the scene and was very satisfied with the gauntlet she made. This one-piece gauntlet copied the battle data of the Titan God King, but it took her hundreds of years and went through several revisions. It has reached the level where a generation of gods can be suppressed with just a wave of the hand. But this is the upper limit that can be achieved for the time being. We cannot directly twist a generation of gods into twists. We can only slowly consume the energy reserves of a generation of gods. Only when they lack the energy to maintain the strength of their divine bodies can they be killed. However, for ordinary third generation or lower super soldiers, this gauntlet is a veritable killer weapon. It can crush a large piece with a wave of its hand, but the premise is that it can master the programming of Binghua to drive this gauntlet. Complex energy-driven formula, otherwise everything will be in vain. Just when Binghua was thinking this, red dark energy suddenly emerged from Shailen's body, temporarily repelling the force field that imprisoned her, and she came directly to the side of Binghua through the wormhole, and the rapier in her hand burst out. A dazzling dark energy waved down from the void. A nearly 3-meter-long slender silver energy blade flew through the space and cut towards Binghua at high speed, but Binghua gently sided to avoid it, cutting a shallow gap in the blade of the destruction star blade at his feet. Are you going to resist to the end no matter how hard it is? I really don't know what you are doing. Binghua also had a rare anger in his heart. He had always held back and allowed these scientific research angels under Liangbing to escape, but Shailen attacked him again and again, not knowing how to stop when he was ready. Shailen continued to use the micro-wormhole to jump and came to the side of Binghua. The thin sword in her hand that could easily cut off high-grade alloys swung at Binghua's neck mercilessly. The next moment, Shailen's eyes widened slightly, and a shield composed of densely packed countless feather-like silver metal feathers that exuded a sharp aura blocked his slashing. In the world invisible to the naked eye, the energies of Binghua and Shailen were colliding with each other, but it ended with Binghua's strong crushing. The result was that Shailen was bounced back by the impact of the collision of the two energies, and Binghua inevitably retreated slightly, with the cloak behind her rising slightly. The silver feathers gathered to resist the attack bloomed like flowers at this moment, turning into dozens of tiny silver streams of light that caught up with Shailen, who was bounced away. Shailen's face was tense, her attention was focused as never before, and she even had the thought of reactivating the dark energy overload. She stared at the dense silver feathers in her sight and made crazy calculations in her mind. The result made Shailen a little panicked. Can't escape at all. Even if you jump through a micro-wormhole, you can't avoid it. There is no time at all, unless you can make the necessary calculations like the queen through the micro-wormhole. In the end, after Shailen used her rapier to block the cutting of several silver feathers, under the extremely sharp cutting characteristics of the dark silver weapon, her weapon was broken into several pieces, and her body was even cut by several silver feathers. Pass through the body. Binghua deliberately avoided Shailen's vitals and did not cause irreparable damage to her, but only made her weak. Finally, she used the god-binding lock to capture and imprison Shailen. There was a harsh sound of metal cutting, and the door to the experimental area inside the institute was divided into several pieces by several small silver feathers and collapsed. Binghua stepped over the ruins on the ground, with more than a dozen silver feathers hovering around him. As an intruder, Binghua did not have the authority here, so he broke in like this all the way. Shailen, who was in a weak state, was taken care of by two escorting angels. Binghua planned to see what Liangbing was actually researching before destroying the research institute, which aroused Keisha's resentment. When Binghua entered the core laboratory and saw the scene inside, his originally relaxed expression became serious, because a tall humanoid creature with horns on its forehead, strong muscles, purple skin, and fleshy wings on its back, are killing each other. After easily killing several purple-red monsters whose combat power was close to that of second-generation warriors, Binghua began to read the information here, but the result was not smooth. Most of the information had been deliberately destroyed, and only a few leftovers that had not been destroyed in time remained. But the few words in it still made Binghua frown, because an enhanced fusion experiment between the male angel and the chaos virus was actually going on here. Judging from the results, it seems that preliminary results have been achieved, otherwise where did those ugly purple-red creatures that look like demons come from? After leaving the research institute, Binghua directly dragged the entire research base with the force field and threw it into the gravitational capture range of the star. He quietly watched as it merged with the star and became indistinguishable from each other. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 503. Several days have passed since the destruction of the research institute. The fusion experiment was not exposed in the Angel's internal network. Binghua only reported it verbally to Kesha. Later, Liangbing came over and had a big fight with Kesha. And scattered. The captured former king of Apocalypse, Shaolin, was sentenced to 20,000 years in prison for violating the Justice and Order Act, desecrating life, and researching dangerous substances. He was imprisoned in a planet system near the Celestial City, where there happened to be an angel prison specially used to imprison and punish angels who made mistakes. This news caused an uproar at the Mellow Heavenly Court meeting. The angels from the Binghua and Hexi factions did not react much, but the investigating angel faction under Liangbing was involved in heated discussions, and some planned to raise it at the meeting on the spot. All objections were suppressed by Yun Lan, the current commander-in-chief of Detective Angel. Binghua did not continue to pay attention to the follow-up of this incident. He only knew that Kesha went to Liangbing several times, but it seemed that both parties broke up on bad terms in the end. Liangbing is still hanging around in the Super Seminary with Carl, saying that he is studying time and space, but Binghua doesn't know what he is doing. Compared with these internal affairs of Merlot Heaven, the fleet led by Angel Ran also returned to Merlot Heaven, bringing back with it the intelligent AI core of Wu Xing. Binghua stared at the giant ball imprisoned in mid-air by the restraining force field. The mechanical structure of an eye and the fractured lines all over the surface made it look like a real biological eyeball. No nonsense, Binghua's dark eyes glowed with white light, and he was connected to the Skysword computing cloud that had not yet been completed. A Skysword with specifications several times larger than an ordinary Skysword was Binghua's carefully designed flagship in recent years. It could provide the computing power support is several times that of ordinary sky blades. The peripheral firewall of the intelligent AI Wuheng only lasted for a moment before it was breached by Binghua, followed by logical coding and core data information. In just a few minutes, the structure and composition data of the intelligent AI Wuheng were analyzed by Binghua. After that, he quickly browsed through the important data stored in the core area of the intelligent AI Wuheng, looking for clues about the World Eater God. Restart, planetary jump, data transfer. Binghua, who was checking the core database of the intelligent AI Wuheng, secretly screamed something bad, because in the database, Binghua retrieved a trap that had been set up by the god of the World Eater. Exiting the viewing state, Binghua raised her hand without saying a word. The raging orange-red dark energy like a blazing flame gathered in an instant, enveloping the intelligent AI Wuheng who was imprisoned in mid-air by the force field. The entire main structural alloy that constitutes the intelligent AI Wuheng began to melt into a liquid metal solution under the erosion of this terrifying dark energy, and finally turned directly into nothingness. After doing this, Binghua looked ugly, because the angel civilization was calculated, and the Black Star incident was a bait set by the World Eater God from the beginning. After leaving the storage area, Binghua immediately summoned several high-level angels under his command to keep the Skyblade combat units they led vigilant. At the same time, he notified Angel Elan, the defender of Merlot Heaven, to be wary of possible enemies. On a metal throne located in a dark space, a very oppressive metal armor's face lit up with a V-shaped scarlet light. Then it stood up from the throne, with layers of silver armor on its chest and abdomen joints like a living creature. The skin folds normally without affecting its ability to move at all. Angel, finally let me find your core star field. I will bring you complete destruction. The god of world eaters clasped his right hand in front of him, as if he was holding victory in his hand, and his tone had never been more exciting. It was fully prepared, armed with countless powerful technologies collected in its own technology library. He lost himself, and even used energy printing technology to create an army of powerful mechanical warriors that were not inferior to angels. Now the intelligent AI used as a decoy has completely stopped running, and the star field where its last signal disappeared should be the core star field of Angel. Even if it is not, it should not be far away. After opening the three-dimensional star map, the World Eater God soon found the star field where the coordinates were located. After observing for a moment, the World Eater God decided to take action immediately. Wu Xing, more than half a month has passed since the final decisive battle. The main force of angels has withdrawn. Except for a small number of angels who are used to deal with the aftermath and some affiliated civilizations that covet intelligent machine technology, there are still a small number of scientific research ships left. In addition, most of them chose to evacuate. On the scientific research Tianren battleship left behind, the scientific research Angel Yun, who was responsible for analyzing the Black Star, sat in his seat, holding a cup of steaming tea while watching the various data refreshed on the projection light screen in front. Suddenly Angel Cloud's eyebrows frowned slightly, and the magnetic field data representing the entire Black Star began to rise rapidly. He quickly put down the tea, and without caring about anything else, he used the powerful scanning ability of the Sky Blade to conduct an instant scan of Black Star. The next moment Angel Cloud quickly informed the captain of the matter, and the captain of the Sky Blade was also very decisive and immediately notified the affiliated civilizations still on the planet. But it is a pity that they were not able to evacuate. A powerful layer of ground enveloped the entire planet. The various underground facilities in Wuxing that were paralyzed due to the intelligent AI Wuhan being taken away by angels actually started operating again, and the reactor was restarted. The huge energy evenly distributed under the surface of the entire planet began to converge towards some points, and the already thin atmosphere of the entire planet began to distort due to changes in the magnetic field. The surface of the continental ocean began to separate to both sides. The tall folding spears originally hidden deep in the ground unfolded and pierced the sky. The scene in the battle data of the fallen angel Yinga appeared at this moment. Because a series of changes happened so fast, the Sky Blade who stayed outside the Black Star had no time to do anything. In addition, there were friendly forces on the planet and it was difficult to use weapons of mass destruction. As a result, the angel could only watch the Black Star complete. After accumulating energy, he opened a big hole in the universe and sucked himself in. The original Marrow planet system is now located on the outskirts of the star field where the Marrow heavenly court is located. The void of the universe suddenly shattered and a huge object squeezed out of the hole. It was the Black Star that initiated the planetary jump. However, its condition did not seem to be very good at the moment. The spears erected on the surface of the planet showed signs of partial dissolution. Almost as soon as the Black Star appeared on the periphery of the Marrow planetary system, a harsh alarm sounded in the Marrow heaven, which was hidden in the cracks of folded space. At the same time, the Super Seminary parked in the planetary system also discovered the sudden appearance of the Black Star. After all, such a big thing suddenly popped out and anyone who was not blind could see it. It came so quickly. In the conference hall, Binghua looked at the picture projected in the middle of the hall and said. At this moment, the sacred wings gathered in the conference hall, and most of the high-level angels were present. Even Liang Bing, who had not attended the meeting for a long time, appeared in his position as an assistant officer. All this was due to Binghua's report and the urgent report from Tianren, a ship responsible for handling the aftermath of the Black Star incident. Kesha, who was in a high position, frowned slightly as she looked at the scene. She was obviously very unhappy. This was the first time she was in such a bad mood since the expansion of the Order of Justice. I really want to know who our enemy is. Why do we know the location of the Merlot Heavenly Palace, and what gives them the courage to come and provoke the angelic civilization? Binghua took a step forward at the right time, raised his hand to his chest and saluted, and said a little self-blame. Queen Kessa, the god of world eaters, obtained the coordinates of the celestial city entirely because of my negligence. It was when I was studying the intelligent AI captured in the Battle of Wuxingxing that I accidentally triggered a trap in its core database, which resulted in the coordinates of Tiancheng being successfully stolen by the enemy. Since it was your negligence, Holy Left Wing, do you have a good follow-up remedy plan? Kesha looked at Binghua. She felt that Binghua would not disappoint her, and Binghua had already done everything she could. Queen Keisha, before the meeting started, I had already issued a recall order to the Heavenly Blades cruising in the nearby star field. Currently, there are 8 Heavenly Blades left in the Mellow Heavenly Court, and there are a total of 350,000 Angel Legion soldiers who can be put into action immediately. Kesha looked around the hall after hearing this. There were less than 100 high-level angels at the bottom present at the moment, and there were only 6 god-level angels with the ability to lead an army alone. They are the Expedition Corps commanders Angel Ran and Angel Ming under Binghua, Angel Elan and Angel Ruaning, angels of Tiancheng Defense, and He 11. Under Liang Bing are Angel Yungzi as scientific research officer, and Angel Yungzi who is in charge of intelligence collection and compilation. Angel Yunlin. Of course, all the god-level angels in Merlot Heaven must be more than this. These are all combat capabilities on the surface. For example, the guardian angels and border guard angels in some important areas cannot be called at will. After Binghua finished speaking, Hexi, who was standing on the right below, also stepped forward to speak. The defense system of Merlot Heaven has entered the first level of alert, and the space interference system was also activated 6 hours ago. Any space and wormhole jumps without the authorization of Tiancheng cannot enter the scope of Tiancheng, so Queen Keisha does not have to worry about the safety of Tiancheng. Question. At this moment, Binghua received an urgent message. Kesha also noticed the change in Binghua's expression and immediately asked. Queen Keisha, according to the report of the angels monitoring the surroundings of Tiancheng, another celestial body with a diameter of more than 3,000 kilometers was rejected by the defense system of Tiancheng and was expelled from the jump channel. According to the observation, the other party has the ability to move in the universe. It takes about an hour. It will then complete the rendezvous with the Black Star. The high-ranking angels present were all surprised when they heard this. Technology and facilities capable of leaping to planet-level celestial bodies are extremely rare in the known universe, but today 2 of them popped up at once. As the king of angels, Keisha's heart was slightly condensed. In the angel database, the god of world eaters was just a relatively rare collection of wandering aerospace-level civilizations. It was easily suppressed by Binghua 100 years ago. In this short period of time, it's really puzzling to her that the level of technology has improved by such a leap, because the development of technology has never been achieved overnight. In fact, the one who was most surprised was Binghua. She was a witness to the suppression of the World Eater civilization, and she even used the environment to trap the then World Eater god to death in a planetary explosion. Although his fighting method is quite strange, and he has a body that is difficult to destroy, but it is only a little troublesome, this former defeated general was actually able to stage a massive battle involving 2 planets to attack the celestial city in 100 years. Okay, now that the situation has developed to the present point, what needs to be considered now is how to eliminate the enemy. After saying this, Kesha looked in Binghua's direction. The Holy Left Wing has the experience of destroying the god of world eaters, so this time the Holy Left Wing will still lead the battle. Binghua bowed and accepted the order and returned to his original position. Then Kesha turned her attention to Hexi. Hexi, keep an eye on Tianquan's defense system. As a symbol of justice and order, Merlot Heavenly Court must not be damaged in any way, and all enemies must be intercepted outside Tianquan. Don't worry, Queen Keisha. In the end, the person Kesha gave the order to was Liang Bing, who was serving as an auxiliary officer. Liang Bing, you are responsible for providing specific intelligence support to the Holy Left Wing. Liang Bing also nodded to accept the order, and did not choose to refute his sister's face at this time. It was one thing for the two sisters to disagree over some minor issues, but it was another thing to fight against the enemies who dared to invade Tianquan. After the meeting, Binghua returned to his left-wing palace, sat on the main seat and began to formulate a battle plan. Through the powerful scanning system of Merlot Heavenly Court, it has been determined that the number 2 planet with a diameter of more than 3,000 kilometers that later jumped over should be the main force used by the god of the world eaters to attack the celestial city, because its surface is covered with traces of transformation, and there are also traces of transformation inside it. It has an extremely complex energy supply system. In addition to the energy transmission channels in the Earth's crust and the spire facilities used to jump to planets, the mechanical factories on the surface of Wuxing have basically been destroyed, and they are just a stationary target. Binghua's battle plan is very simple, that is, to clear the way for the Star Destroyer weapon. If it does not work, then use the wormhole transportation ability of Merlot Heaven to transfer the Angel Legion directly to Planet 2, directly destroying its structure and paralyzing it. But an unexpected incident forced Binghua to take action immediately. Planet number 2 stagnated after arriving near the Black Star. Then huge disc-shaped spaceships rose from the surface of planet number 2, each with a volume measured in kilometers. Their number actually exceeds 50. The surface of planet 2, which is visible to the naked eye, has become rugged, and at the same time, the mechanical structure beneath the planet's surface has been exposed in disguise. The disks that left planet number 2 landed on the other side of the Black Star, and then saw surging blue flames spurting out, like a blue light gun piercing the sky. The Wuxing star was slowly pushed up, which was like a signal. The energy reactor cluster on the Wuxing star had been activated before and was running at full power. The majestic energy provided energy for the planetary propulsion engine. The remaining energy was transformed by the tall spears that had spread out on the planet's surface, forming a blue energy barrier visible to the naked eye on the side facing the celestial city. To be honest, seeing this scene, neither the angels nor the super seminarians watching the battle could understand how it was done, because the god of world eaters did not use stellar energy to drive nor extract the dark energy from the dark plane. Sorry, due to recent real-life reasons, this update break is a bit long. I will try to keep updating every 7 days in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 504. When the Black Star is slowly pushed in a certain direction by the planetary engine, an area on the surface of planet number 2 opens to both sides like a closed gate, with 3 conical barrels arranged in a Z shape that are several kilometers long. Poke out. Immediately afterwards, dazzling blue energy lightning brewed in the barrel, and the aftermath caused a slight shock reaction in the surrounding space. The next moment, a dazzling blue ray entangled with countless thick lightnings was launched from planet number 2 and bombarded the void of the universe. The naked eye could see layers of ripples spreading in the universe. The medium of space underwent earth-shaking changes in an instant. The originally stable space became chaotic, and the space storm set off seemed to shatter everything into pieces. Merlot Heavenly Court, which was originally hidden in the folded space of the real universe, had to leave its position and step into the space of the real universe that had not appeared for a long time. The appearance of Tianquan was shocking. The scenery in the planetary system seemed to be elongated in an instant. Time and space were twisted into a ball at this moment. A behemoth that was comparable in size to a small planet slowly squeezed out of the void. It was a majestic city built on a continent after the planet disintegrated. A group of white and gorgeous palaces were located on the continent. Mountains, rivers, and the sky were all there, as if a part of it had been cut off from a living planet. Just cut it off. There is also a silver metal ring at the outermost edge of the continent, and the force field energy it emits is the biggest contributor to making Tiancheng so magnificent. To the outside are Skyblade warships parked near the ring, like swords with wings spread out. Because of Binghua's battle plan, these Skyblade battleships are lined up at this moment, facing planet number 2 and the slowly approaching Wu star. The lower part of the floating continent is a metal structure that unfolds like an inverted bowl and vaguely reflects a dark luster. It is used to berth the Skyblade battleship Tiancheng Tiangang, and can berth more than 50 ships at the same time. Skyblade. In the hall of the Holy Expedition Hall, which serves as the command and war room, Binghua watched the battle while listening to reports from the intelligence analysis angels under his command. The reconnaissance angels under Liangbing also summarized various data on the battlefield at the same time. Queen, the enemy's attack caused a regional space shock. The use of space technologies such as wormholes will have an error of 10 to 15%. Can you analyze what method the other party used? I'm sorry, Queen, we need a certain amount of time to solve it. I will allocate all the current idle computing power in Tiancheng to you, and analyze the energy properties and methods used by the opponent as soon as possible, as well as the defense weaknesses of Planet 2. It's the Queen. Angel, who was in charge of the Scientific Research Intelligence Department, retreated after hearing this and immediately threw himself into intense analysis. At the same time, the large clock of the Super Seminary, with the authorization of the Space Principal, also used part of its computing power to calculate the outcome of this battle. Under the terrifying computing power of the celestial-level supercomputer, the outcome of this war was simulated and calculated in a matter of seconds. That is, the angels will definitely win, but there will be certain losses. In the control center responsible for controlling all defense systems in Tiancheng, He 11 sits here. In front of him are more than 30 projection light screens, each of which displays different data. Under the high platform of the control center where He 11 is located, there are dozens of scientific research angels who are debugging and testing whether the energy circuit of Tiancheng is smooth, and at the same time monitoring the situation of the entire Tiancheng. As the King of Angels, Keisha is sitting on the throne in the hall of the King of Angels palace. Below are 2 celestial city guards and guarding angels neatly arranged on both sides of the red carpet aisle in the middle of the hall. The number is more than 200. All high-level angels, including 4 god-level guardian angels. This is the foundation accumulated by Merlot Heavenly Court over the past thousands of years. Excluding the Skyblade captains and civilized observers who are affiliated with the Holy Left-Wing Command System, it is the most powerful elite force besides high-level angel commanders. This power is unmatched by any single civilization in the known universe today. After tens of thousands of years of development, the angel civilization has embarked on a path different from the Kamigawa civilization. This may be why the Super Seminary wants to fight against the void. The reason why angelic civilization technology was added to the God-making plan. At the same time, this also means that Kesha's angelic kingship is becoming more and more stable. Angelic civilization is gradually becoming unified, regardless of each other. In another 10,000 years, when the older generation of angels retire, Merlot Heaven will probably no longer be divided into factions. There will no longer be any thought of the coexistence of 4 kings in the minds of a generation. Queen Kesha, don't we need to help the Holy Left Wing? After all, this is related to the safety of the entire celestial city. Elan, the angel defender standing on the left, asked for instructions from Kesha, who was sitting in the seat. His tone was a little worried. Kesha waved her hands gently when she heard this, and comforted Elan below. Don't worry, Holy Left Wing is not an incompetent person. She has many capable angels under her command, and with the intelligence support of the investigating angels under her assistant, nothing will go wrong. And as a guardian angel, you are the final line of defense of Merlot Heaven. If any cat or dog comes and requires you to defend the enemy, then there will be no future for the angelic civilization. Hearing this, Alan retreated to his position, and Ruaning on the other end chuckled and whispered towards the side. Alan, the Holy Left Wing is a powerful angel who fought at the same time as Queen Kesha. You don't have to worry so much. It is easy for the Holy Left Wing to solve such a small situation. Alan didn't say anything after hearing this, but continued to focus on the giant projection light screen above the aisle, paying close attention to the development of this war. At this moment, several terrifying energy beams illuminated the dark starry sky in the light curtain, carrying star-breaking power across the distance between Tiancheng and Wuxingxing to bombard the energy barrier on the side of Wuxingxing facing Tiancheng. In an instant, a dazzling ray of light bloomed, and the energy that was enough to blow up the planet and the energy that formed the black star barrier annihilated each other, and a violent reaction occurred. Under mutual repulsion, they turned into a ring-shaped energy wave that swept across the entire planetary system. Although Tianquan's first wave of tentative attacks failed to break through Wu Xingxing's energy barrier, they also tested the upper limit of the opponent's strength. Almost all of the few scientific researchers of the affiliated civilization that remained on the Black Star were lost in the space passages due to unprotected space jumps, or they died miserably under the intense energy radiation. The reason why the World Eater God erected a shield to cover the entire planet during the last planetary jump to ensure the survival of the Wuhang people on the planet was because keeping them might restrain the angels, which would make them better. Make your own plans. But this time the planetary jump requires speed and energy conservation, so there is no need to take such complete protective measures, resulting in the almost complete destruction of life on the Black Star. This is also the reason why Tiancheng used high-power energy weapons to carry out exploratory attacks as soon as it came up, otherwise it would have activated precise wormholes before that and rescued the scientific researchers of the affiliated civilization. Although Angel's space technology cannot reach the level of deploying troops at will within the sphere of influence, it can still be done within the size of a mere planetary system around Tiancheng. All of this is inseparable from Liang Bing's outstanding contribution to Tianquan's space technology breakthroughs, among which micro-wormhole troop deployment is a technology Liang Bing has been insisting on developing. Binghua in the Combat Command Center was watching the projection light screen while reading the latest information uploaded by the reconnaissance angels near the Black Star. Wu Xingxing's energy barrier strength dropped by more than 70% when it withstood the attack, but quickly rose back to 100% within the next minute. In this case, Binghua decided to continue the bombing and contacted Hexi to increase the energy output and conduct uninterrupted bombardment for 5 minutes. Hexi, who was sitting at the control center of Tiancheng, agreed to Binghua's application after checking Tianquan's current energy reserves and energy collection device data and feeling that it would not pose a threat to Tianquan's current protection. The next moment, in the ring-shaped force field protective belt outside Tiancheng, in the area facing the direction of the Black Star, red energy began to gather, turning from the initial red into a dazzling bright orange, exuding like miniature stars that were lit up. Infinite brilliance. The next moment, several beams of light penetrated the dark starry sky and shot toward Wu Xingxing, which was getting closer and closer to Tiancheng. It was like a blade of light piercing the energy barrier of Wu Xingxing. While Tiancheng was attacking, Tianren did not stand aside and watched, and each of them began to accumulate energy. And at this critical moment, the dazzling blue energy lightning stream passed over the Black Star, which was flying slower and slower due to the energy impact, and blasted directly towards the hot melt ray emitted by the Tiancheng ring force field generator. As soon as the two terrifying energies collided, a violent energy dissipation effect occurred. Countless sputtering energy flows streaked across the starry sky and exploded into dazzling light clusters. but soon the melt rays launched by Tiancheng gained the upper hand and directly suppressed the energy lightning flow. However, due to the high energy intensity of the opponent, part of the power of the melt rays was reduced, and only part of it acted on Wu Xingxing. On the energy shield. Even so, Wu Xingxing's shield energy intensity is declining at a very considerable rate, and it is about to be overloaded and disappear. Seeing this, the World Eater god on Planet 2, who was slowly following the black star far behind, punched the armrest of his metal throne in anger, and his tall and strong metal body started to fight. He didn't expect that a cosmic city of the angel civilization would be so troublesome. To be honest, if he hadn't relied on data transfer, he would have given up. At this moment, the World Eater god was stunned. The number 2 planetary computing core he was connected to detected several anomalies in space, which were suspected to be space wormholes. Ripples suddenly appeared in the air about 200 meters away from the surface of planet number 2. A medium-sized insect door was opened silently. Among the various planetary defense facilities standing below, some weapons began to move, and the muzzles were already visible. Late. Dozens of blazing red waning moon-shaped slashes that were several meters wide shot out from the worm gate that was started, melting everything in front of the flight path, and a violent explosion occurred inside the metal structure that was submerged in the ground. The terrifying energy erosion ability of dark energy is fully displayed at this moment. As long as the metal structure within the explosion range is basically melted into a liquid state and flows freely, the central area of the explosion disappears out of thin air and turns into nothingness. Following the energy slash, dozens of figures trailing energy after images rushed out. They streaked across the surface of Planet 2 like meteors, leaving only a mess of metal on the surface. A few minutes later, the god of World Eaters strode angrily towards the exit of the metal palace, because according to statistics, in just a few minutes, it was discovered that the surface defense turrets and orbital defense weapons had been destroyed in the areas where space fluctuated. Nearly half. Seeing this, the World Eater god couldn't sit still. He immediately activated his mechanical army and planned to personally hunt down those angels who dared to invade his domain. Some reserved passages on the surface of Galaxy number 2 were opened, and then a humanoid mechanical warrior flew out of them. These humanoid mechanical warriors have a pair of thin, unfolded metal flying wings behind their backs, and their right hands hold a one-handed sword with traces of blue energy dancing on its surface. The left forearm on the other side is a bit bloated, with a flat muzzle at the front, and the upper part is inlaid with devices of unknown meaning. As soon as these humanoid mechanical warriors appeared, they gathered together in threes and threes to form a simple combat formation, and then turned into streams of light flying towards the direction of the angels' attack. After the enemy defense facilities near the insect gate were almost cleared, the elite angel troops arrived on the battlefield through the insect gate. Almost all second-generation angel warriors were equipped with flaming swords in batches. With the development of angel civilization, and the fact that Kesha, as the king of angels, intentionally limited the number of god-level angels, these extra resources and the already wealthy resources created a huge group of second-generation angels. When the number of second-generation angels reached a certain level, most of the first-generation angels were recruits who had just joined the Angel Legion, and they were removed from the regular combat order of the angel civilization. These recruits will undergo lengthy training and learn all kinds of knowledge. They no longer only know how to slash with weapons and use the energy formulas that have been engraved long ago like their predecessors. When these recruits are qualified, they will hold flaming swords and be able to temporarily program energy formulas and simple driving algorithms suitable for the current situation according to different battlefields and environments to prepare for the subsequent promotion of high-level angels and god-level angels. This is the expectation of Kesha, Binghua, Hexi and other angel leaders for the angel civilization. In their vision, there will be no angels below the god level in the future of the angel civilization. Every citizen of the angel civilization is worthy of the war god of the Kamigawa civilization, and the angel civilization will also usher in eternity. However, we are still far away from this goal. The current second-generation angels have not been able to popularize angels. It can only be said that we are still far from reaching the endpoint on this road. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 505. Dazzling fires and explosions continued to rise in several areas on the surface of Planet 2, like a volcano that was constantly erupting. Broken metal debris and melted mechanical parts were densely floating above the surface of Gao planet like a curtain. The only ones who can carry out high-speed combat in such a harsh environment are the angel warriors and the humanoid mechanical warriors who are their enemies. The flaming sword with the inscription on the sword spine and the blade glowing red, and the one-handed sword glowing with blue energy in the hand of the humanoid mechanical warrior collided together in the universe. For some reason, the dazzling energy flow came into contact between the two. The place spread out to all directions. The older generation of angel warriors may not understand why this is, but some angel warriors who know some technical knowledge and have self-study knowledge about energy application in the database know that the weapons in the hands of the enemy have the same characteristics as the flaming swords in their hands. Similar energy-driven technology. After a moment of stalemate, the angel holding the flaming sword slightly deflected the blade to guide the opposite humanoid mechanical warrior's weapon to one side, then struck and kicked to widen the distance between the two parties. The kicked mechanical warrior raised his left arm and fired out purple energy rays. Faced with the incoming attack, the angel warrior did not choose to avoid it. He directly blocked the ray with his gauntlet and responded with an energy slash with his sword. The humanoid mechanical warrior's long-range attack method, the female angel, was able to resist for a period of time with her body and armor, but the thin layer of armor on the humanoid mechanical warrior's body was no different than paper in the face of the energy slash from the flaming sword. The information about the World Eater God is actually not complete. 100 years ago, the Angel Legion had not completed its transformation, and the main force of the Legion was still a generation of warriors. But 100 years is enough time to do a lot of things. Although the angel civilization's celestial computer is still in the construction stage, a second-level celestial-level computing cloud has been successfully built. Because of the emergence of supercomputing, Angel Hexi and Binghua have optimized the flame sword to a certain extent. The main areas of improvement are the energy compression efficiency of energy slashing and the normal high-temperature cutting ability. In the area where several insect gates were opened on Planet 2, angels and humanoid mechanical warriors fought together. Although there were many humanoid mechanical warriors, the cooperation between the angel warriors was also extremely tacit. They often covered each other and destroyed the pursuers behind their companions. Few people were injured. At the same time, high-level angels also intentionally cut into the formations of humanoid mechanical warriors on the battlefield, preventing them from gathering together and suppressing the angel warriors' space of movement with sheer numbers. After suffering several high-level angels' heavenly blade judgments and almost instantaneous flame bombings, which resulted in the loss of a large number of warriors in the tens of thousands, the humanoid mechanical warriors had no choice but to give up suppression by numbers and could only survive in the vast space of the universe. Fight with angels. Angel warriors who are physically injured will rationally retreat to an area with more companions, and then return to the Merlot heaven at the other end through the insect gate for treatment, which further reduces possible losses. After an hour of fighting, the World Eater God lost countless troops, but the angels lost less than 100. The main reason for achieving such huge results is that the space-based supercomputing cloud used for scientific research by Mellow Heaven provides great support to the battlefield. Whenever the angel's body damage reaches a certain level, the supercomputer will calculate a suitable retreat route. At the same time, the supercomputer will also notify nearby friendly battle angels and provide suitable cover plans. Unless there is an accident, the success rate is about 80%. The reason why the probability is so high is inseparable from the strong body of the second-generation angel. Super warrior technology has been constantly updated, especially after obtaining part of the ancient Kamigawa super warrior information. The expression of the angel's super genes has also undergone certain changes. It no longer uses the energy film generated by the super cells that store energy to resist attacks. Instead, it uses a force field in the body from the inside out to strengthen the connections between cells and molecules, making the body difficult to destroy by conventional means. For example, as long as general kinetic and energy attacks do not exceed the upper limit of the force field for an instant, the damage suffered by the angel warriors will be very small. This is why some angel warriors choose to resist enemy energy attacks with their bare hands on the battlefield. When the attention of the World Eater God was attracted by the angel warriors on Planet 2, the Black Star finally met its end. The shield was penetrated by a Magi's melt ray, and then the Black Star hit by the melt ray was centered on the point where the ray hit. Fiery red waves spread in all directions and gradually flooded the entire planet's surface. When all this was completed, Tiancheng stopped the energy output, and the Heavenly Blade and Heavenly Sword, which had accumulated energy for a long time, sent out dazzling beams of light that could annihilate stars. Wuxingxing was first hit by a star-destroying beam on the surface of the obliquely upper part. With a violent explosion, 1/8 of the area of Wuxingxing was blown into countless fragments and scattered in the void of the universe. And this was just the beginning. Then, several dazzling light beams hit the surface of the Black Star one after another, and earth-shaking explosions continued to be staged on the surface of the already broken and burning star. Pieces of planetary continents continued to break into pieces, and were pushed into the cosmic space by the impact of the energy explosion. In just a few moments, the Black Star had become riddled with holes, and the entire star was on the verge of disintegration. Seeing this, Tianren also stopped continuing the bombing, because according to the calculated results, the Black Star will self-disintegrate due to the magma explosion in the core of the Earth. The God of World Eaters waved his hand and slapped aside the flaming sword that was coming towards him, and then swept a high-level angel from high altitude to the ground with a flick of his arm. But this can't make him feel better at all, because there are as many as 10 high-level angels waiting in the middle tightly surrounding him, launching powerful and extremely fast thrusts from time to time, and if he doesn't pay attention, there will be an extra hole in his body. For this war, the God of the World Eaters was specially equipped with armor that could greatly weaken the attack of physical weapons, but it could only be slightly hindered by the blazing edge of the flaming sword with the weapon engine running at full power. This is also the reason why the God of World Eaters has too little contact with angels. His first contact was with the angel Ming who was chasing him. Because Angel Ming was not familiar with the fighting methods of the God of World Eaters, he was severely injured as soon as he came into contact. Returned in disastrous defeat. Then there was the battle with Binghua, who was the Holy Left Wing. At that time, Binghua already had the combat data of the World Eater God. From the beginning, he attacked the fact that the World Eater God's body was weak in resistance to ultra-high temperatures. The God of the World Eater was unable to withstand Binghua's arbitrary attack methods in that battle. Whether it was the unreasonable movement speed or the weapon that cut the special alloy such as cutting mud, the God of the World Eater was unable to withstand the attack. Like profound. So in the past 100 years, the World Eater God has been researching a metal material that can resist the attack of ice flower weapons and use it as his own outer armor. In the end, the force field metal armor he developed used force field energy to make the connections between molecules closer, thereby greatly improving the strength of the armor and also having good resistance to energy attacks. However, after actual battlefield testing, the World Eater God found that the armor he developed was still imperfect. That is, when two attacks are used at the same time, the strength of the armor will rapidly decay, resulting in the inability to exert its ideal effect. Defense. Fortunately, the God of World Eaters has a special body structure and has no weaknesses in the conventional sense. Every microscopic cell that makes up his body, that is, the microrobots, can be said to be the carrier of his will, coupled with unreasonable self-replication. The speed makes the World Eater god look like he is immortal. When the battle began to tilt toward the angels, the god of the World Eaters became a little anxious. Although there were many material printers inside Planet 2, as long as there were enough resources, humanoid mechanical warriors could be printed out in a very short time. Achieve a combat mode of fighting and producing at the same time. But if this continues, as the metal structures on the surface are destroyed, the angels will sooner or later hit the interior of the planet. When the material printer is destroyed, the number of humanoid mechanical warriors will only become smaller and smaller. Binghua, who was directing the battle on the other side, also discovered the humanoid mechanical warriors that were constantly pouring out from the interior of Planet 2, and the overall number had hardly decreased. A little speculation, supplemented by the information about the World Eater god collected 100 years ago, suggests that there should be some kind of facility inside Planet 2 that can quickly produce these mechanical cannon fodder. In this case, Binghua was no longer in a hurry to annihilate the mechanical cannon fodder. The nearly 200,000 attacking angel warriors were divided into two waves by Binghua. They fought alternately and maintained the current scale without expanding the battle circle. After explaining this, Binghua adjusted the projection light screen to somewhere on the battlefield, his eyes fixed on the World Eater god who was restrained by 10 high-level angels. According to the results calculated by the supercomputer, the physical attributes of the World Eater god have been greatly improved compared to 100 years ago, but the angel has not stood still. When he discovered that the World Eater god in the light curtain was becoming more and more impatient under the harassment of 10 high-level angels, Binghua contacted Angel Ran and Angel Ming, who were cleaning up the humanoid mechanical warriors on the battlefield. Ran, Ming, don't clean up those cannon fodder yet. Delegate the command to the nearby high-level angels and pay more attention to the god of World Eaters. I feel like he wants to do something to break the current unfavorable situation. Ran and Ming, who were clearing an area with lightning on the battlefield and cutting the surface of the planet with flame bombardment, received the order and moved towards the battlefield of the World Eater god while focusing part of their attention there. A dazzling energy burst erupted where the World Eater god's weapon collided with the flaming sword. The attacking angel was not greedy at all, and quickly retreated while the World Eater god was hindered by the energy burst. At the same time, high-level angels from 3 directions behind the god of the World Eater took the opportunity to quickly approach. The flaming sword in their hands burst into dazzling orange energy flames, cutting towards the god of the World Eater from 3 directions. But the next moment, a layer of blue shield blocked the attack of the high-level angel. Although it only resisted for a moment and was cut through by the surge of energy from the flaming sword, it was enough for the World Eater god to counterattack. Several bulges appeared on the back of the World Eater god, who was hit like a booze, and then the sharp spikes pierced the 3 high-level angels, but they nimbly dodged it. But then, faced with the god of World Eater's turning weapon, they had to temporarily avoid the edge. At this moment, several blazing waning moon slashes from other areas bombarded the god of World Eater. Before the surging energy flames disappeared, he was torn apart by the World Eater god. The scars on his body cut by the energy slashes became smaller and smaller, and they recovered in just 2 seconds. You annoying things. After speaking, 4 large bags bulged out from the body of the god of the World Eater, and quickly expanded and changed into the appearance of the god of the World Eater. He separated from his body and became an independent individual. However, the armor style on his body was more concise, and there was no any weapon. Faced with this sudden change, the high-ranking angels who restrained the World Eater god immediately separated 4 angels to face the separated individuals. However, as the original god of World Eaters, he did not stop creating clones, and continued to increase the number of clones as if dividing himself. The situation soon reversed. Before, 10 high-ranking angels jointly attacked the god of World Eaters. Now, each high-ranking angel had to face the siege of 3 incarnations of the god of devouring gods at the same time. Although these incarnations are not as powerful as the World Eater god himself, They have extremely strong attack and defense capabilities. Parts of their bodies may be changed and reorganized at will, coupled with the suppression of numbers, causing high-level angels to be overwhelmed and contain the World Eater God. The plan failed. Seeing this, the god of World Eaters let out a hearty laugh in the public channel. He waved the giant sword with electric energy in his hand and slashed out the flaming sword that did not activate dark energy cutting from the hands of an ordinary angel who passed by. A gap. The next moment, the arm of the World Eater God suddenly stretched out and grabbed the angel's arm. The giant sword in his hand was sent forward and penetrated the female angel's chest. Scarlet blood continued to escape from the wound into the universe. Killing an angel with his own hands made the World Eater God very excited. This was a feeling he had never experienced before when he destroyed countless civilizations. Because the angel was powerful enough, it gave him a long-lost sense of accomplishment. Destroying those weak civilizations will not make the World Eater's civilization progress at all. Only by destroying those powerful civilizations, absorbing their technology, and using them as nutrients can the World Eaters progress. The World Eaters planned to follow the example of those high-level angels who massacred their own warriors and massacred ordinary angel warriors in order to reduce the angels' vitality. They had no intention of hunting down those high-level angels. Because it only takes less than 2 minutes for the soldiers under his command to come off the production line and go into battle. If it were not for the limit on the number of data souls as a World Eater civilization, he would have already raised a mechanical army of hundreds of millions. Submerged the angelic civilization. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 506. After the World Eater God got rid of the restraint of high-ranking angels, he killed more than a dozen angel warriors in a matter of seconds. High-ranking angels can deploy huge amounts of dark energy and use the weapon engine of the flaming sword to continuously maintain the dark energy cutting state, which is used to fight against the special weapons of the World Eater God. But maintaining dark energy cutting all the time is a certain load for the second-generation angels. In order to maintain battery life on the battlefield, second-generation angels generally only activate the flaming sword function when attacking the enemy. The god of World Eaters discovered this pattern after killing several angel warriors, and based on this point, he launched an unscrupulous hunt for the second-generation angels on the battlefield. Weapons that can disintegrate and weaken the connection between material molecules can cause devastating damage to any normal metal material. Even if the main material of the flame sword is red gold, an extremely special energy-conducting alloy, it cannot use its own strength to resist this attack at the microscopic level. Therefore, in the face of a sudden attack by the World Eater God, even if you are lucky enough to successfully block the attack with the flaming sword, you will still face the end of the sword destroying everyone. Even if the flaming sword withstands the disintegrating force field attack of the World Eater God's weapon, the sword body will be greatly damaged, which will cause the flaming sword's energy circuit to be damaged, and the energy output and energy drive will be affected. In fact, it is very rare for second-generation angels to be able to block the blow of the World Eater God. Most of them are pierced through the chest by the sword in the World Eater God's hand as soon as they come into contact. Due to the killings of the World Eater God, the second-generation angels continued to stay away from their activity areas under the advice given by the supercomputer and the orders of the surrounding commanding angels. The god of World Eaters was very disdainful when he saw this, and ordered the surrounding humanoid mechanical warriors to move closer to him, preparing to form an organized legion to drown the angels that kept flying around. But suddenly a thick bolt of lightning passed between the angels and passed through the army gathered near the World Eater God. It suddenly spread into countless crisscrossing lightning streams. The huge energy that burst out at this moment split countless humanoid mechanical warriors into broken mechanical remains. Even if they were not blown into pieces, they would be melted over a large area, almost losing their combat capability. And this was not the end. The dazzling stream of blazing energy followed closely, streaking across the dark starry sky, splitting the already damaged mechanical legion into two. the good mood of the World Eater god came to an abrupt end. He looked in one direction, which was exactly where the two attacks had just struck. The two angels, whose delicate faces were exposed to the universe without any obstruction, were suddenly reflected in the eyes of the World Eater god. Snort. I thought it was the King of Angels who came, but I didn't expect that it was his former defeated general. I remember that there were many angels who chose to stay and stop me, but the guy they sacrificed their lives to protect was a coward who chose to run away alone. After saying this, the World Eater god laughed. Since it was a public channel, all nearby angels could hear it. Seeing that Ming on the side was in a bad mood, Ran quickly said, "Calm down, Ming, he is deliberately irritating you." Ming Venian tried hard to control his emotions, and his trembling hand that clenched the hilt of the sword calmed down, but his eyes were frighteningly cold. Ran ignored the words of the World Eater god and directly told Ming on the side through the communication. "Ming, what happened last time was not your fault, it was our lack of understanding of him. This time is different. I will attack in a while, and you will support me from the side. If necessary, I will give you a fatal blow." Ming's cold eyes moved away from the body of the World Eater god, nodded and slowly stepped back, protruding from Ran's body. "Although I don't know what gave you the courage to invade the angel civilization, but today you only have the option of death." The silver broad-bladed heavy sword in Ran's hand raised up and dazzling energy lightning danced on the sword, and finally spurted out from the tip of the sword, forming a tangled and intertwined lightning energy impact that swept forward. The flames from the jet port on the back of the World Eater god expanded a little, and the whole body descended rapidly. Then, ignoring the energy lightning above, he rushed in the direction of Ran at high speed, and the long war blade in his hand drew a blue arc and slashed forward. The next moment, a dazzling blue light burst out, illuminating the surrounding space. The energy lightning surging on the special flaming sword collided with the tiny energy wrapped around the blade in the hand of the god of the World Eater, like ice and ice. The fires are constantly cancelling each other out and exploding. As annihilation gradually failed to keep up with the speed of energy collision and explosion, a violent energy explosion occurred in the area where the weapons in the hands of Ran and the World Eater god clashed. Although they were forced back by the impact, the two did not stop attacking. Several slashes formed by energy lightning cut through the energy explosion, and the aftermath of the energy explosion hit several purple beams and exploded into balls of dazzling light. Ran flapped the wings on his back hard, leaving a white energy aftermath that turned into a blurry afterimage and drew an arc towards the god of World Eaters. "Your speed is far inferior to your king." The surface of the World Eater god's body suddenly expanded and deformed. Metal barrels and missile nests were constructed. The original humanoid body turned into a giant several meters tall, with weapon turrets and weapon launch nests scattered all over the body. Mecha. The next moment, all the weapons on the World Eater god's body fired at the same time. Purple energy ray beams and miniature splitting missiles shot out, and their strike range covered hundreds of meters around it. Ran saw dense thunder and lightning erupting all over his body, like dancing silver snakes. As the weapon in Ran's hand pointed forward, the dazzling lightning dancing around Ran's body suddenly shrank, and using the weapon in his hand as a guide, it turned into a torrent of lightning sweeping forward. The next moment, a huge energy explosion occurred, and the angel warriors fighting around them couldn't help but cast their sights over and stay away from the area where the two exchanged fire. The war weapon transformed by the World Eater god continuously fires light and various types of missiles, without any need for reloading and cooling, so it gradually suppresses the weak lightning torrent. Ran's expression was not very good when he saw this, and he moved vertically across a distance of tens of meters, out of the fire coverage of the World Eater god. The god of World Eaters saw Ran shrinking and moving slightly, and the light cannon rays he fired followed Ran's figure like gangrene attached to his bones. At this moment, a burst of red light lit up from one side, illuminating half of the World Eater god's body in a red color. Terrifying heat radiated outward from the whole body. The flaming sword wrapped in a flow of orange-red high-temperature particles did not know when. Already quietly approaching. The body of the World Eater god began to deform, and the energy shield that could be used as insurance was cut into a gap in the blink of an eye by the orange-red sword. The god of World Eaters only felt a terrifying high heat approaching his body, and then the body structure in his chest disconnected from his consciousness. Ming was extremely excited at the moment. She had been wandering around and just found a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At the expense of the life of the weapon engine in his hand, the energy transmission circuit inside the sword body was overloaded, causing the temperature of the high-temperature particle flow formed around the blade to exceed 100,000 degrees in an instant. In the face of such high temperatures, the shield formed by the energy does not have much effect except to serve as a reminder. The molecular bonds of any solid material will be melted and disappeared into the basic elements of the universe in the face of such high temperatures. If it weren't for the fact that the flaming sword in Ming's hand was a special model made by the Ministry of Science and Technology, which could use a force field to isolate the damage caused by high-temperature particle flow to the sword, the flaming sword would have melted in the face of this terrifying heat. The immortal body of the World Eater god naturally cannot escape this law of physics. When the energy that strengthened the molecular connection was washed away by the high-temperature particle flow, the solid body that the World Eater god was proud of was split in two from the chest by the orange-red sword in Ming's hand, leaving only the liquid at the wound. High-temperature melt. For a while, the World Eater god was unable to copy the body structure of the wound. However, as a being who had lived for tens of thousands of years, he had extremely rich combat experience. Before Ming could make any other moves, a giant metal pincer extended from behind the World Eater, clamped Ming's calf and swung it in one direction, and then the energy light cannon on the shoulder of the World Eater god fired several rounds of energy. The rays bombarded Ming, who was thrown away. The upper half of the World Eater god's body quickly retreated after doing all this, but it was already too late. A figure with a faint white energy radiating from its body had already struck across the space. I saw a blue-white sword light running straight through half of the World Eater god's body, and suddenly rushed over and stabbed the World Eater god's neck with a sword. Dazzling thunder and lightning danced on the upper half of the World Eater god's body, and the countless microrobots that made up the World Eater's body fell into brief chaos. Rand showed no mercy, and with a horizontal stroke of his hand holding the sword hilt, he decapitated the World Eater god on the spot. If an ordinary creature ended up like this, it would definitely be dead. However, the World Eater was different. The newly constructed pliers arm on its back quickly clamped forward. Seeing this, Rand kicked the body of the World Eater god, stepped back and distanced himself, and at the same time, he did not forget to swing his sword to strike several thunderous slashes. The upper half of the World Eater god's body has not lost the ability to think at all due to the loss of its head. The micronozzles on its body emit flames, allowing it to move left and right to dodge. However, as an angel with nearly 10,000 years of combat experience, the thunderous slash he wielded was not something he could dodge casually. He made precise calculations and almost sealed off the enemy's possible dodge. Although the World Eater god made calculations, he was still hit by a thunderous slash. A wound was cut on his body armor, and the subsequent energy explosion caused his body to spin around in the universe. Just as Dang Ran was preparing to pursue victory, two objects within the sensing range were rapidly approaching. The next moment Dang Ran's body suddenly stopped in the universe, and a purple energy ray passed in front of him. Then Ran Gen was knocked away from his place by a sudden figure, getting further and further away from the half of the World Eater god's body. Ran used her weapon to hold the enemy who had just attacked her while contacting Ming. "Ming, what happened to you over there?" Ming Yujian fought back an enemy that looked very similar to the World Eater god, and raised his left forearm to resist the sword blade that was slashing from the side. Ming's face was very ugly, and he was also in a very irritable mood. He stretched out his forearm against the blade, flicked the blade away, turned around and slashed an enemy who looked like the god of the World Eater diagonally in two. half. And that's not the end yet. The tip of the sword is aimed at the remains of the enemy that turned into two halves, and a raging stream of orange-red particles spurts out like a flame, melting it into a liquid high-temperature melt. It wasn't until all of this was done that Ming replied, "I ran into a little trouble. They seemed to be that guy's clones, and there were quite a few of them. How are you doing over there? Did you successfully kill him?" "No, I'm also haunted by the clone." Ming Venian flicked the weapon in her hand irritably, and her eyes fell on the 10 incarnations of the World Eater God surrounding her. Just now, Ming was thrown away by the God of World Eaters. After withstanding several rounds of artillery fire, when he was preparing to assist Ran to completely eliminate him, the lower half of the body of the God of World Eaters, which landed near Ming, suddenly began to split and turned into other forms. The appearance of the incarnation. There were only 2 at the beginning, and one of them was easily eliminated by Ming, but the remaining one split into 2 again, then 2 divided into 4, 4 divided into 8, and 8 divided into 16. It seemed that 16 was already the limit. Ming had tried her best to help Ran there faster, but there were still 10 incarnations of the World Eater God left to stop her. Ran's situation on the other side was better. After spending some time to deal with the 2 avatars who blocked her, she continued to chase the World Eater God in the direction where she fled. On the other side, the God of the World Eaters escaped to the surface of the planet after escaping from the siege of Ran and Ming. After several hours of war, the World Eater God discovered that the decision to attack the angel civilization seemed to be too early, because the strength of the angel civilization exceeded his expectations. Regardless of the Angel King, ordinary angel warriors are much stronger than they were 100 years ago. The humanoid mechanical warriors he designed and manufactured according to the strength standards of the previous angel warriors were completely defeated by the angel legions in this war. The power to fight back. If the warriors of the World Eater civilization were not in the state of disembodied data souls, they would only lose a mechanical body when killed by the angels. As long as a new mechanical body is reloaded through the data core inside planet number 2, it can rejoin the battle. I'm afraid planet number 2 has long been dismantled into parts by angels. Now the black star that was used as a trump card has been destroyed, planet number 2 has also been reversely invaded by angels, and he has even been beaten by high-level angels who were once his defeated enemies. Thinking of this, the God of World Eaters has already decided to give up. As an old antique who has lived for tens of thousands of years, he is well aware of the benefits of Go's way. Relying on this, he escaped the first physical war and survived the ancient times. The Kamigawa civilization even survived the second physical war. It is estimated that in 10 or 20,000 years, the angelic civilization will not be able to escape the truth of the cosmic civilization of changing from prosperity to decline. It will not be too late to come here for advice and advice. Thinking of this, the World Eater God turned into countless microrobots, poured into the gaps on the planet's surface, and moved towards the data core. The God of World Eaters has backup bases on many planets in the universe. Relying on special material printing technology, he will soon be able to return to his heyday. Therefore, he has no regrets in abandoning this planetary battle fortress that he spent hundreds of years building. Big ups and downs. After Ran chased to the area where the World Eater God disappeared, he found that the signal response of the World Eater God was lost. In desperation, he walked around and found nothing, so he turned to support Ming. After arriving at the data core, the World Eater God transferred his data soul into the core, and then began to recycle the data souls inside all humanoid machines on the battlefield, handing over the battle to the internally preset combat AI. For a time, the angel warriors found that their opponents' actions had become extremely stiff and rigid. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 507. Has there been any reply from the Super Seminary? In the combat command room, facing Binghua's inquiry from a high position, the angel in charge of liaison quickly answered. Queen, the Super Seminary has approved our application. In 3 minutes, they will use a large clock to monitor and block the external data transmission of the Marrow planet system. Binghua nodded when he heard the words. Although the angel civilization had a way to deal with the god of world eaters, it was still not 100% sure, so he approached the Super Seminary. Today's angel civilization is at a very embarrassing point in time, and a celestial computer unique to the angel civilization is actually being built. But for the sake of the future of civilization, there is a fundamental gap between the angel celestial computer and the Super Seminary's big clock. Even the algorithms used are different and full of angel characteristics, which has led to the slow construction progress. However, the next level celestial level computing cloud has almost been built. The computing cloud built on a large celestial battleship as a platform, although it cannot be compared with the celestial computer, can still provide several times more computing power than the ordinary celestial blade. Currently completed are Tianji Computing Cloud, Tianren Computing Cloud, Tianjian Computing Cloud which just went through final testing not long ago, and Tiankai Computing Cloud is in the final stage of construction. After confirming that the Super Seminary would provide support, Binghua, who was in Merlo Heaven, read the latest battle report and delegated command authority to several angels with rich command experience in the combat command room before leaving alone. Merlo Heaven. The World Eater God in the internal computing core of Planet 2 is rapidly gathering millions of data souls on the surface, and as those data souls are gathered by him, his data volume is also increasing. At this moment, the God of World Eaters has made preparations for data transfer and is waiting to collect the souls of the loyal warriors who have followed him for tens of thousands of years. This is also the only thing he cares about. As time goes by, after Planet 2 no longer replenishes the lost mechanical warriors, there are fewer and fewer humanoid mechanical warriors still active on the surface. Just when the angels who had been fighting with high intensity on the battlefield could take a breather, they received a coordinate point from the Holy Left Wing, and at the same time there was a strange order to order all the angels near the coordinate point to stay away. A moment later, a terrifying giant blade whose size was measured in kilometers and exceeded the imagination of ordinary angels quickly approached planet number 2 from the universe. It is one of Binghua's signature weapons, the Destruction Star Blade, but this time the size of the Destruction Star Blade has reached its highest point in history. The length of the sword body alone is longer than the length of the 2 sky blades combined. The exposed energy circuits that were originally crisscrossed on its surface are now gushing out a faint orange-red glow, forming a light coat of energy on the surface of the sword body. A few seconds later, under the gaze of tens of thousands of angels around him, the star blade of destruction easily penetrated the metal structure layer on the surface of planet number 2. Under its own terrifying mass, the blade continued to sink inwards into the star until it was almost destroyed when it was close to the sword grid. The star blade slowly stopped sinking into the ground. When the noise caused by the destruction star blade slowly calmed down, the nearby angels saw Binghua's figure. Binghua is currently located at the end of the handle of the star blade of destruction. Her dark eyes are now emitting white light. She is now connected to her own Sky Sword computing cloud. Tianjian Computing Cloud has been connected successfully. Synchronizing calculation data, synchronization successful. Performing a second self-check, there is no abnormality in the data transmission connection. The Star Blade of Destruction, Titan's Grip has been connected, and the energy drive formula has been optimized. Including the above-mentioned prompts, huge amounts of data and various calculation formulas were rapidly refreshed in Binghua's brain, but they were still within the processing range for an angel whose average brain could be used as a supercomputer. Binghua's left hand, already wearing the hand armor named Titan, opened and pointed in the direction of the Star Blade of Destruction inserted into planet number 2. With the blessing of supercomputer, the invisible force field energy enveloped an area of hundreds of kilometers in an instant. The blessing of supercomputer does not increase the upper limit of the output of the Titan's hand armor, but it can magnify the scope of the force field geometrically, which translates into flame bombardment and sky blade judgment being equally effective. It can be said that the emergence of the celestial computer supercomputer can be regarded as a revolutionary breakthrough in super soldier technology. It greatly enhances the scope of destruction of super soldiers, truly giving them exaggerated force that can easily destroy planetary ecosystems. If one is willing to patiently study the energy-driven technology aimed at destroying planets, with the support of supercomputer, it is not impossible to destroy stars alone. At this moment, Binghua showed all the civilizations and forces that were paying attention to this battle a terrifying and destructive power that was enough to suppress a civilization. Under the influence of the force field, the star blade of destruction was slowly pulled out from the surface, leaving a giant crack more than 10 kilometers long. The next moment, under the control of Binghua's will, the invisible force field poured in along the giant crack. As Binghua's open palm slowly clenched, the force field began to exert pressure on both sides. It's like two invisible giant hands are tearing apart the crack on the surface of Planet 2. As time goes by, the crack is getting bigger and bigger, and the surface of the Earth, including the metal structure below, is being squeezed high on both sides by the invisible force. It's bulging, and the interior is severely deformed and twisted. A few seconds later, the crack that was originally only tens of kilometers pierced by the destruction star blade had now expanded to hundreds of kilometers, like a deep canyon leading to the depths of hell. After doing all this, Binghua leaned over and flew towards the canyon that he had torn apart. As Binghua entered the surface of the Earth, any material blocking the front was forcibly torn apart by the invisible force field. What was finally exposed in front of Binghua was the outer wall of the core area of Planet 2, which is where the data core of the World Eaters was located. As early as when Binghua used the star blade of destruction to destroy the planet's surface, the god of World Eaters began to collect data. Transfer. What horrified the World Eater god was that the ultra-long-distance data transfer technology he was proud of was blocked by an indestructible information firewall. At this moment, the Marrow Galaxy is like an extremely strong cage in the eyes of the World Eater god, trapping him here. Not to mention that there is a terrifying existence that can easily tear the surface apart approaching him. The World Eater's civilization is in danger. Just as the World Eater god was anxiously trying to break through the firewall blocking the Marrow star domain, the thick alloy walls used to protect the data core made a harsh creaking sound. Visible to the naked eye, the alloy walls began to bulge, and then seemed to a pair of invisible hands easily kneaded and deformed it. As the alloy wall was torn apart on both sides, there was a rhythmic sound of footsteps. Immediately, the god of World Eaters saw a familiar figure entering the data core area where he was. With such a large data computing and processing center, no wonder it can control the operation of the entire planet. Binghua began to look at the layout of the data core area as if no one was watching. This indifferent attitude turned the anxiety in the World Eater's heart into anger. King of Angels! Do you think you can defeat me just by preventing me from transferring data? Let me tell you some sad news, I am immortal. Really, that's really bad news. Hearing this, Binghua turned his attention to the huge data core processing facility in the center of the region, and his voice was very calm. The god of World Eaters was stunned when he heard the words. Then, in front of the data core, gray-black light spots began to gather rapidly. It looked like a human form condensed, but the next second, red-hot energy swept over. The gray-black polymer that had just condensed into a human form turned directly into burning sparks, leaving nothing behind in the end. Binghua put down his raised right hand and stood staring at the data core where the World Eater god was. There were waves in the void behind him, and silver pillars of unknown purpose spread out in the air, surrounding the area where the data core was. The next moment, the crisscrossing energy circuits on these pillars suddenly light up, and will be activated by a special algorithm written in the sacred language, and a very special firewall will be built. The god of world eaters immediately discovered the emergence of the firewall, because his control over the facilities on Planet 2 was forcibly disconnected, and immediately wanted to force a breakthrough and transfer the data to other areas on Planet 2. You can't escape it. Although we angels, data souls, have not conducted research in this area, unfortunately, our affiliated civilization has technology very similar to yours. Therefore, God of the world eaters, let's capture him without any hesitation. Although she said that she would give up, Binghua never stopped moving her hands. Her eyes glowed with white light, and the computing power of the Tianjian computing cloud began to increase its computing efficiency. Feeling a huge amount of data invading his computing core, the world eater god was surprised, but he was not too worried. Because as a data soul, he has a strong degree of freedom and can easily hide in the huge data flow. At this moment, he is thinking of reversely invading the angel supercomputer. But soon the world eater god discovered that he was overconfident, because after the intruded data was unfolded, he began to clear his control over the data core, usurping his control authority bit by bit. At first, the god of world eaters could still compete, but as Binghua continued to improve the computing efficiency of Tianjian's computing cloud, the god of world eaters began to lose ground. And as the world eater god's control authority over the data core was gradually usurped by Binghua, the resistance of the world eater god became weaker and weaker, until finally Binghua drove the world eater god into the angel chief research officer in the special storage device that he 11 rushed to create. The invasion war launched by the world eater god ended in an anticlimactic manner. But for the various civilizations watching the war, it will take a long time to digest the shock and various information this war has given them. The angel civilization showed its powerful strength to the known universe. Faced with the invasion of the planetary fortress civilization, the angel civilization annihilated all the enemies without even deploying its sacred wings. We must know that today's known universe is still an era where the God-making project dominates. The angel civilization is recognized to be comparable to the level of the main god of the Kamigawa civilization. The only 4 former angel kings. Hey Binghua, haven't you destroyed this guy yet? He 11, who came to Binghua to exchange energy application technology, looked at the silver pillars imprisoned in the void by the force field in Binghua's research room and said in slight surprise. Destroying it will cause some trouble, and I'm going to put it in the lowest level of angel prison. After Binghua finished writing the last piece of sacred language used to drive the algorithm, he closed the projection screen and turned to look at He 11. So how is he doing now? I remember that you applied for the right to use Tianji supercomputer and Tianjian supercomputer, plus you just completed the test of Tianjian supercomputer. A total of 3 supercomputers jointly solved this guy's core database and running logic code. How was the harvest? Facing He 11's interested inquiry, Binghua didn't hide her thoughts. I solved a lot of useful things, and I also figured out how this guy escaped from me last time. However, this guy has lived for tens of thousands of years. In order to prevent the world eater's civilization from being cut off, he has left his own backup data in many locations in the known universe. If he is offline for 1,000 years, the backup data distributed throughout the known universe will be automatically activated. At that time, the angelic civilization will face harassment from countless world eater gods. Binghua said with a bit of distress, so I have a headache now. In the end, I plan to throw it into the angel prison and find its nearest data backup location to activate it once every 1,000 years. Tiancheng in the province will be constantly harassed. He 11 chuckled a few times after hearing this, seeming to be happy to see Binghua's troubled look, and finally asked, so how is this guy doing now? Ask him yourself. Binghua shook his head slightly, not wanting to say more, and waved his hand gently in the direction of the pillar where the world eater god was stored. The next moment, there was a burst of insults in the research room. Binghua, you stinky bitch, I will never let you go. When I get out, I will use my army of billions to crush you angels into powder. This is easy. Dazzling blue thunder roamed on the surface of the pillar, and the World Eater god appropriately let out an indescribable scream. I've warned you a long time ago, don't be too quick to talk, it will only aggravate your pain. After the thunder dissipated, Binghua's voice sounded faintly. The World Eater god subconsciously wanted to curse, but had to hold it back, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. He 11 watched the scene with great interest, and then sighed, "You actually installed a language module on it?" Binghua nodded and said seriously, "At first, I planned to have a good talk with him, but now I regret it." He 11 chuckled softly when he heard this, and then returned to his normal expression after a moment. "Okay, I came to see you on business. The Super Seminary is currently working on a project on the exploration of new materials in the universe. They found a small black hole, used a large clock to calculate the conditions required to blow up the small black hole, and were making final preparations." Binghua heard the words and said, "This should be a matter of the Super Seminary. What does it have to do with us angels? Could it be that Queen Keisha wants us angels to be involved?" Facing Binghua's question, Hexi smiled and said, "That's for sure. How could we angels fall behind on such a cutting-edge research topic as the exploration of new matter in the universe? In the words of Queen Keisha, we angels must not lag behind humans." To be honest, I was very troubled. The first leader appeared in this book and we had a pleasant exchange. In the end, I felt really bad and missed an update again. I will make it up before the next update. Finally, I would like to thank all my book friends for their support and rewards so far. You have given me the motivation to continue writing. To be honest, I don't think my books are very good. They don't have many ups and downs and are too plain. I didn't expect that so many book lovers would like them. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 508. In the Ebocot Galaxy, representatives of various civilizations involved in the exploration of new materials in the universe have gathered here. This is the observatory specially built by the Super Seminary, where you can observe the entire process of blowing up a small black hole. The one who came here on behalf of the Angel civilization was the Scientific Research Angel team, led by Binghua and Liang Bing. While Liang Bing and Carl from the Super Seminary were discussing the issue of time and space, Binghua looked around at the representatives of other civilizations and nodded at the representatives of each civilization who greeted him. After greeting each other with each civilization, Binghua couldn't help but lament the impermanence of time. Time was like an invisible knife, erasing all the familiar faces in Binghua's memory. Even if there are super warriors, there are not many high-level civilizations who can become super warriors. Even if no one explains it to Binghua, Binghua knows that it is nothing more than the checks and balances within the civilization. Angels can have an eternal king because they are popular, but other civilizations are different. An eternal leader and ruling body will solidify classes and cause the civilization to lose its enterprising spirit, which is extremely detrimental to a civilization. Of course, this is not absolute. There are also civilizations that can do very well in this regard, such as the former Shenhe Tiandao Star people and today's Liang civilization. This time, the person attending on behalf of Liang civilization was Emperor Hunkin, the Crown Prince of Liang civilization. According to records, this Crown Prince's talent in stellar drive technology was more dazzling than his good political talent. This time, the Crown Prince Liang was involved in blowing up the small black hole. This time, the Super Seminary did not hesitate to spend a lot of resources and drain several small stars, and then completed the simulation calculation of blowing up a small black hole. Even the angels had to admire the generosity of the Super Seminary. Binghua was more interested in how the Super Seminary could destroy the black hole than in the possible gains from blowing up the black hole. You must know that black holes are extremely dangerous celestial bodies in the universe. Even light cannot escape the capture range of its gravity. It is estimated that even space and time are distorted inside. As the Super Seminary's space announcement program begins, the Great Clock, the only large-scale celestial computer in the known universe, begins to run. Using dozens of giant gravitational wave generators built by the Super Seminary, they began to affect the black hole's autobiography speed. As the black hole's autobiography became faster and faster, the plan to destroy the black hole began to enter the next step. The next moment the big clock started to show its power. Using the terrifying computing power of the big clock, a circle of mirror-like space membrane wrapped the black hole and the surrounding space. According to Binghua's observation, even light cannot penetrate this layer of space membrane. Because of the sudden appearance of the space membrane, and the black hole's autobiography due to the influence of previous gravitational waves, the light escaped the black hole's capture. At the same time, the black hole's too fast autobiography gained energy supplementation, resulting in a sharp increase in the number of photons around the black hole. At this time, the Super Seminary side sent a star that had been prepared for a long time into the space membrane through the star drive technology supported by the large clock. When the number of photons around the black hole reaches a critical point, the big clock suddenly removes the space membrane, and the stars sent into the vicinity of the black hole are also detonated. As a dazzling white light lit up in the universe, a terrifying explosion that affected several galaxies swept toward the surroundings. Infinite light and heat plus a small amount of matter were spit out. Led by the Super Seminary and involving many civilizations, the exploration plan for new matter in the universe has officially begun. By blowing up a small black hole, the material spewed out when the black hole was destroyed was obtained, in order to obtain undiscovered material elements. After a period of time, when the aftermath of the black hole explosion dissipated, various civilizations quickly began to collect and study the materials ejected by the black hole. Since it was the first time to explode a black hole, Angel and the Super Seminary discovered some unknown elements that did not exist in the known universe. One of these elements attracted great attention from both parties. It was the product of the black hole cooling down instantly after the explosion. Even though the Angels and the Super Seminary searched without leaving any room, they only found a very small amount of it. This element contains extremely powerful energy. Leaving aside the side of the Super Theological Seminary for the time being, experiments conducted by Angel's chief scientific research officer found that this substance was added to the Ti alloy. The properties of Ti alloy have been significantly improved, and its strength has been increased several times compared to before. Another feature is that this new alloy has extremely powerful energy defense capabilities. In the experiment, both the high-intensity laser light knife and the high-power particle blade could only leave shallow melting marks on the surface of the new alloy. Finally, after a long period of testing, the shortcomings of this new alloy also emerged, that is, when the alloy added with this unknown element reaches a critical point, a violent explosion will occur. Before the Angel could name this element, the Super Seminary used the big clock to identify this element and named it dark iron. According to public information, dark iron is a product of energy and metal elements solidified together. It is the result of the special environment inside the black hole. There is currently no way to mass-produce this element in the known universe, and it can only be obtained from black holes. As a result, various advanced civilizations in the universe began to conduct various research on dark iron. However, because the amount of dark iron is extremely rare, joint research came into being. Dark iron is divided into 5 parts in total, of which Angels and Super Theological Seminary each occupy a large part, Liang civilization and nearby civilizations occupy 1 part, and the remaining 2 parts are obtained by the Dino Galaxy and its affiliated civilizations. The last one fell into the hands of the Caslands and the Thunderblade Stars, who had withdrawn from the first echelon civilization in the universe. After years of development, the two successfully turned enemies into friends and formed a small alliance to check and balance the increasingly powerful Liege Yang civilization. The remaining many aerospace-level civilizations do not have the conditions to research dark iron at all, and they can only look forward to it. After studying dark iron for a period of time, the small amount of inventory in the hands of angels and super seminarians warned that it was imperative to obtain new dark iron resources. So the plan to blow up the black hole for the second time was put on the agenda. However, compared to the last time when the black hole was blown up as a bomb, this time we have the data of the last black hole blowing up, and the conditions for the formation of some dark iron have been obtained. Therefore, this time the goal will be to extinguish the cooling black hole. In order to achieve this goal, the angel civilization and super seminary are expected to use 60% of the computing power of the large clock. The plan is to use space transfer replacement, star drive, and other technologies. The target black hole is a medium-sized black hole located in the Como uninhabited star field within the red star ring. This time, Angel and the Academy plan to transfer 10,000 nearby large and medium-sized stars to the black hole, and use a huge amount of stellar energy to extinguish and cool the black hole, thereby obtaining the required black hole material. Of course, the time required for such a large-scale workload is also extremely long. According to the calculations of the big clock, this project will probably take nearly 2,000 years to complete. For this reason, even the anti-void god-building plan has been affected, and its development progress is about 20% delayed than expected. 2,000 years is an extremely long time for ordinary civilization, enough for the cold weapons civilization to develop into a post-nuclear civilization, but for the angels and super seminaries who are already discovering the road to eternity, it is just a unit of time. Clank. Two deafening metal clashes were heard in succession, and two handleless silver blades like flying knives cut through the air and flew out hanging upside down. A couple of times. But this is just an appetizer. Kesha sat on a stone, with a faint smile on her face. She put her fingers together and slid slightly in the void in front of her. Suddenly, the surrounding space rippled, and dozens of silver blades shot out. Queen Keisha, we know each other well, and this alone cannot stop me. Binghua held the king's sword 7 kills and waved it several times in succession, throwing out 4 orange-red and bright 5-meter-long thin sword energy to meet the incoming silver blade. The next moment, an orange-red fire cloud exploded in the air, an impact spread out, and the grass growing on the ground suddenly shook. At the same time, there was the scream of sharp weapons cutting through the air, and silver blades were blown away, spinning and piercing into the ground. As early as the moment the explosion occurred, Kesha was protected unharmed by a gorgeous silver wing several meters wide, composed of silver blades. If we don't fight, my resting place will be destroyed if the fight continues. Kesha retracted her silver wings and the silver blades scattered around on the ground, shook her head with a wry smile, and Binghua in the air also retracted her sword after hearing this, and the white wings on her back slowly fluttered and landed lightly on the ground. Every time I spar with you, it ends like this. Even if I were the king of angels, I would be unhappy. Kesha joked. Binghua came to Kesha and found a clean stone to sit down on, and replied with a soft smile. Queen Kesha, you are the strongest person in our angel civilization. I can only gain the upper hand when we compete with you. Kesha refused to comment. In fact, she knew in her heart that if there was a life and death fight, it was still unclear who would win and who would lose between her and Binghua, because they both knew each other too well. Kesha follows an upright way of fighting, and her attack methods have all moved closer to the Silver Wings combat system. She is the type who knows whether she can win or not as soon as she fights. If you can beat it, you will easily kill the opponent instantly. If you can't kill the opponent instantly or severely damage the opponent at the beginning, then the possibility of Kesha's defeat will increase rapidly as time goes by. Binghua is different. She is proficient in various drive algorithms and various types of tactics. She can flexibly adjust her fighting methods according to the battlefield environment. In addition, she has weapons in her arsenal for various types of enemies. As long as Binghua catches her weakness, the enemy will be restricted to death. We angels are in an extremely critical period recently, but I don't know why I always feel a little uneasy in my heart. Kesha had a hint of sadness on her face, an expression that Binghua had never seen on her before, and she couldn't help but comfort her. Sister Kesha, maybe you are overthinking. Nowadays, the influence of the Order of Justice has covered countless civilizations and is the largest order system in the known universe. Countless civilizations live and work in peace and contentment under the protection of your reputation. Kesha looked a little more excited after hearing this, and looked in Binghua's direction. Let's not talk about these disappointing things. The original intention of establishing the righteous order is that I just can't stand those people who bully the weak in the universe. At the same time, it is also to find a job and responsibility for the angel that is worthy of putting all his efforts into it. If we don't do this, the female angels who have nothing to do will most likely make the same mistake as the male angels. When the heaven becomes heaven, we will also become what we once hated the most. To be honest, I don't know if this is right. I have never said these words to other angels. Hexie will fully support my actions, but her mind is entirely on scientific research and she can't give me any advice. As for Liang Bing, I can't describe it. She is like a child who won't grow up and only does things based on her preferences. In her eyes, the strength of the angel civilization is probably not as important as the progress of space research. So in the end I can only confide this to you. Binghua, you and I are fighting for the strength of the angel civilization. So can you tell me, is everything I've done so far correct? Binghua looked at Kesha's eyes staring closely at her, and knew in her heart that what Kesha needed now was not advice or comfort, but recognition. Strictly speaking, the only person in the angel civilization who truly sacrifices everything for the angels is Kesha, the King of Angels. When Binghua competed for the position of King of Angels, he believed that his reputation could not be compared with Kesha. In order to prevent the female angel from another civil war, he chose to be inferior to others. After choosing to become the Holy Left Wing, Binghua's position changed from decision-maker to executor. Therefore, even if Binghua had some objections to Kesha's just order, for the sake of stability, he would not speak out, let alone interfere with its development. At the same time, because of her personality, Binghua would not explain her idea to Kesha, because she knew that even if she told Kesha, her idea would not be realized, so Binghua kept it deep in her heart. Seeing Kesha like this now, Binghua secretly sighed in her heart. This is the loneliness of not having any companions, because there is no one to go with her, and there are no pioneers to learn from. Therefore, whenever Kesha makes a decision, she will think about it repeatedly and worry about it. Gains and losses. Sister Kesha, the development of angel civilization to its current scale depends entirely on the justice order you promote. I believe that under your leadership, angelic civilization will reach unprecedented glory. Just when Kesha was about to say something, a figure shot out from the sky with a long white tail. When the distance was nearly 1,000 meters, the figure stopped suddenly and formed a circle of ripples in the air. By this time, Binghua had already recognized who it was. Elan approached very quickly, and when he was still about 100 meters away from his queen, he was already flying at an ultra-low altitude, and then he jumped upwards and landed lightly on the ground. What's wrong, Alan? This is not your usual style in being in such a hurry. Elan bowed and said anxiously. Meet Queen Keisha, Holy Left Wing. Something happened to the Queen's space research. During the assistant officer's space transfer experiment not long ago, an accident occurred in the laboratory. Liang Bing and her subordinate Yun Lan lost contact with the heaven. Kesha and Binghua both looked stunned when they heard this. The next moment they stood up at the same time. Kesha asked the question first. Have you used the Skyblade computing cloud to search? Queen Kesha, I am here to obtain the activation authority of the Skyblade computing cloud from you. At the same time, I will report this matter to you. Kesha heard this and said directly, let's go back. While speaking, Kesha crossed over Elan, spread her wings on her back and flew into the air first. Binghua and Elan behind her didn't waste any time and immediately chased after her.